All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fight. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going to be going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Kape versus Almabayev. We'll be taking a look at UFC 313 as well coming up this weekend. And to do all of that with me, as always, my co-host, the Ohio player, the man, myth, legend, the man that Crazy Kev fears. It's Chase Parton. How are you, sir?
I am fucking good, man. Listen, I don't know how many times I've said that we've had a good night of fights, but these were a good night of fights. So Saturday was fucking grand. And then, now it's Monday. We get to fucking talk about it. I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was a fun one, I think. I mean, it was a little bit sleepy at first. It kind of was a sleeper sort of card with a couple of cancellations and stuff, obviously, before a big event coming up this weekend. So I think for all of those circumstances, I thought this was a pretty decent one. We'll get into it here in just a second. As you know, we're going to be going over each and every fight from Kape versus Almabayev. If you're hanging out with us in the chat, you got something that you want to talk about, put it in there. If it's not pertaining to the fight that we're talking about, we'll come back to it at a later time. To get into this card, as I said, this is UFC Fight Night, Kape versus Almabayev, which took place at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Overall impressions, I guess we just kind of said, but what do you thinking, Chase?
Dana, we got to keep the Apex, man. We got to keep it. I love it. Oh, god damn, I love it. And it's because of cards like these. They're exciting and, I don't know what it is with the finishing. I don't know why it was different from last week. We should have got a card with a bunch of them, but hey, I'm not the one to talk about it yet. But even if we didn't get a lot of finishes, this one was pretty solid. Very fun fights. Decent amount of action, even if the co-main event was who it was. So
Yeah, we'll certainly talk about that. No, I thought that this was a fun one too. I don't get the people that don't like the Apex. Yes, I understand wanting the crowd. I understand that the crowd brings its own energy, but like we talked about it, I think last week, where it's like it's two different styles of viewing and two different viewing experiences that I think independently are great in their own respects, and on the one hand you have the crowd, you have all of that atmosphere that gets dredged up with a large group of people, the noise and the atmosphere is palpable. I understand all of that, but I think that when you're in the Apex, it's a more intimate viewing of the sport that you're a fan of. Like, imagine watching a basketball game. I don't know if this is the greatest analogy, but I'll make it anyway. Imagine watching a basketball game, in a stadium with all of these people or whatever, but then getting to watch your favorite basketball player play one-on-one against somebody, like, and you're like one of a couple of people that are like courtside for that. Like, to me, that I think that there's merit to both of those.
I would actually just like to interject.
Sure.
There was actually a time, during right at the beginning of COVID when the NBA went into a bubble, and it was actually more or less like that, playing in like a high school gym kind of deal with a
Right.
limited crowd. So, yes, I get what you're saying, and I don't know what it is either. I could not tell you why people don't like it. I honestly, and same with the bubble. I love the vibes of the parents and shit getting mad at the fighters. Like when they get angry and they get like going with their, because they're cheering on their boy, like that's their boy, literally, you know. But it's just real special. I'm not gonna lie, because in the stadium, everybody's cheering, or everybody's booing or whatever. But when you go in the Apex and you hear, Andrea Lee's, sister fucking yell, like it's fucking lit. Like, come on.
Yeah, it shows the emotion that this sport is really all about. I mean, these are real people. We've talked about this plenty of times. How the sport is one of, if not the most accessible sports that there is at the highest level of competition, at least in the United States and globally. I would say where these are all people that you could be living next door to. These are gyms that you hear about that you could literally walk into yourself. It's very rare that you have the opportunity to go and play basketball with your favorite basketball player. Like, this is a very human experience, the fight game. So, I think the Apex brings a lot of that humanity out, which I like a lot.
Yeah,
So,
100%. I think we should all enjoy the sport while it is right now, because if they were paid like boxers and these dudes were famous celebrities, just like you would never be able to like communicate with him on Twitter. Shout out Charles Johnson, or run into him on the street. I think it's just a really rare opportunity that you have a sport this, like, I don't know, like a very global sport that is just kind of so it's a niche market kind of deal.
Yeah, it's insulated, its own little world in a way, even though those ticket prices are sure going up, but that's a whole nother story. One other thing I did want to mention before we get into the first fight here is that we had a two-person commentary team for this show. It was John Anik and Dominic Cruz. Of course, we'll talk about Dominic Cruz's special moment in a little while, but I thought that the dynamic of Anik and Cruz was really great because Dom Cruz is a notoriously kind of joyless individual. He's sort of a no-nonsense guy, almost to a fault, I would say. So I thought it was very fun to hear John Anik trying to tee up some banter every once in a while, and Dom basically just swatting it out of the air, like, get this shit out of here, which, I just appreciate that. I like the comedic aspect of it. So for that alone, I was very happy with this card.
Why did they not say a reason for it being a two-man commentary? Like, they were just like, I mean, see what happens. Like, I
tell you,
mean,
this was the little card that could. That's really what it was. We had a couple of fights that dropped out. It was already kind of a sleepy card to begin with. It's headlined. The main event is flyweights, which, yeah, I mean, I don't feel this way, but some people would be like, the small guys, whatever. You know what I mean? It was the card that people were trying to forget about or push to the side, and it really it delivered in a big way anyway. So the two-man team got it done. I appreciated that.
I should just get over it. I'm never gonna be disappointed. Like, if I get to watch a full, I mean, like, bro, unless there's 14 disqualification doctor stoppages, like, bro, I'm gonna have a good. I mean, okay, 7 or 5 might be a little excessive, but like, if as long as I get some fights, man, that I can talk about for 7 days until the next one's, like, Jesus.
There you go, and that's the sign and mark of a true fight person, right there. There are people throwing hands. You're a happy guy. That's always how I've felt about it. All right, well, enough chit chatting around the meat and potatoes here. Let's get into these fights. First, to start it off, was the aforementioned Charles Johnson versus Ramazan Bek. Am I right? Yeah, or just Ramzan. Ramzan Timirov is the Uzbek here. What'd you think?
I think that was one of your worst, pronunciations. That was pretty bad. I think it's Ramazan.
There's more to that name that they're not showing on the screen right now. I swear.
I think it's just Ramazan Tamirov. Like, I think it's pretty simple. But okay, so this fight here, going into it, I'm obviously back on the spectrum of decision merchant city. So Charles Johnson, I had by decision, and no, I do not think he won. Unfortunately, as a person who put money on him, when it got to it, it was only the third round that he convincingly did something. The first two, he didn't do anything the first round much. I mean, I can't remember if he took any like big shots. He actually rolled a lot of shots really well. Like, he was hitting them with the matrix moves, but he wasn't like doing anything. Like, he actually wasn't able to advance at that point. He wasn't catching on to the patterns. Second round, that's when Tamirov started to gas a little bit, and Charles had his moments, but just still not on the gas. I actually think I remember in the first round, I started gloating about the 1 minute of control time or something, because Tamirov got it. Maybe that was not a takedown or something. Maybe it was later in the fight. Maybe it was a different one, but that was kind of funny. And yeah, the third round, Charles definitely won it. The fact that he got to the decision, hand raise, he definitely, it was close. That second round, probably first went to Tamirov, third went to Charles. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a horrible loss. But as Anakin said, Tamirov's now ranked, and that kind of made me sick a minute ago. I almost like vomited. Like, it's crazy that happened. So yeah.
I mean, I thought that this fight was pretty close. I liked Tamirov. I think that he is strong and fast. I mean, the gas tank is certainly a little bit of an issue. He did look like he was starting to definitely by the third round. You're saying in the second round, I didn't see it as much there, but perhaps. But either way, this was a close fight. This is the exact kind of fight that you don't want to go to the judges. I had it first round Timirov. Second round was very, very close. Third round Johnson after Timirov started to gas. So I mean, That second round was really kind of the decider. When you're talking about the first round, I think the issue for Charles Johnson was that I kind of felt bad for him. He was doing the right thing by kicking to keep range, but Timirov was just wise to it from the outset. So he was catching those kicks left and right, which was really throwing off what Johnson was trying to get going, which is why I was glad that he adjusted in the second and third round. He didn't go back to the same style of kicks that he had been doing. He kept them a little bit lower. So, good adjustments to not go back to the well that way. But again, this Timirov guy is he's kind of relentless. So I thought that this was pretty close. Johnson always a game fighter. I think that it might have been slightly frustrating for both these guys a little bit. Timirov should have been a little more willing to take a punch in order to land power shots, because he did seem like he sort of stayed a little bit off the gas at times. And then especially later on, but CJ doesn't gas that much. So it's kind of hard for anybody to say, oh, you should just wait until he's primed for it. You know what I mean? So that's a little bit of a tough one. But then for CJ, should have gone a little bit more balls to the wall in the third round once Timirov was gassed, because, that was really his opportunity to swing it in a definitive way. And this fight was very close. You let it go to the judges. This is what happens.
I think what's key to note, and this is what Charles Johnson does best, unfortunately, is he he shows weaknesses. I wouldn't say he exploits, because he didn't really do it well until the third, when there was actually the cardio weakness. But he does show weaknesses in fighters. And, Timirov, he was gassing before, but he was not only able to gas him in the third, but he was able to turn up on him and kind of push the pace. And yeah, he didn't finish him, but hey, that was a convincing third round. He did damn near about as everything he could. And sometimes it's just not enough. And the up-and-coming guy in Timirov, hey, if you gas like that against somebody else, buddy, you might get finished. Like Josh Van would definitely finish you in the third. But wrestling, somebody might be able to wrestle you. You are strong as shit, though, dude. That is crazy that he's built like that. I can't even think about anything else. But you actually did remind me, too, about the kicks. Yeah, he was catching him and punching him with the same hand.
Right.
Which, damn, he must be fast or, off balance stuff. Charles has to stumble, but a good game plan by Timirov. Whoever the coach is, there's a lot of footage on Charles Johnson. So, yeah, but good for Timirov.
Yeah, strong and fast are the notes. It's not surprising he's able to knock people out at flyweight. Mix in accurate spinning attacks, and he's a very dangerous dude, really. That's what I'm liking about this guy, especially after the knockout that he had in his previous fight. So, like you said, the gas tank is definitely going to be an issue, especially at flyweight, bro. Come on, you only have up to go, and that weight is going to only cause more gas tank issues potentially down the line if you do end up moving up at any point. So it's you really need to get your cardio under control now. But he's got time to adjust that, and hopefully he can. Hopefully he'll be able to keep his knockout power. If he does, sometimes there's a trade-off there occasionally. But either way, this was a decent fight. I think that this was a little bit closer than it needed to be, though. Now, like you were saying, he's ranked now. That that brings on its own set of challenges that are going to be a lot different than what he's faced before. He's got to adjust pretty quickly. This is a trial by fire with every fight.
I think what's also to note that I thought instantly when Timirov came out, I got the vibes that he was a little jittery, a little nervous. Charles, on the other hand, was very loose, didn't seem overly confident, but seemed like he was in his mode. He seemed like he was in, the vibe that he wanted to be. And I thought that was going to play a lot more into it. I thought Charles was going to do what Charles Johnson has done before and spook the up and comer. But man, it sucks to see, because like I said, I had Charles by decision. And, I'm not here to say you lost me money or anything like that. But Charles, you put on a decent performance. Like I said, the third round was good enough, man. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, one note that I did have after doing the rewatch, and I want to shout out Vitz King on this one, because CJ is one of his favorite fighters. So on the watch along, we did have it 2-1 to CJ on the watch along. Watching it back, I could definitely be okay with 2-1 for Timirov. So close fight, all that stuff being said. But one note that I had was that Charles Johnson seemed a little agitated in this fight, just in general. And I don't know if that was just him in fight mode or if there was something else that was going on, but he didn't like, they were talking about on the commentary that he didn't like that they were the opening fight. So that off the bat was, I think he felt a little disrespected by that. Then there were a couple of times where he was protesting glove grabs, which, I mean, in the moment, it was a little hard to see if it was like fully hooked in the glove or whatever. Like, so maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. He got really upset with a shot that came in a little bit late after the horn sounded at one point. So I don't know if he was just again, I don't know if I'm confusing his fight ready persona versus him being a little bit more agitated in some way than he normally would be, but just something to put out there. And then, of course, all of the opposition he was facing from Timarov couldn't have helped that situation either.
Yeah, Anakin just said it. It was the power. I mean, Charles was feeling the shots more.
Yeah.
And, he did actually, if you think about it, his game plan worked out very well. I think some other people should take notes. He was landing a lot of kicks, and yes, he was getting the kicks caught and he was getting countered, but it did add up in the end. I mean, he did gas him out and showed that if you are in a 5 round with this dude, because that's eventually the goal. That's what you have to think about it, not even just against the current champ or somebody who you believe is going to be the champ, but 5 rounds. I mean, in 3, he was about dead and the tables turned. So that's exactly when you can lose the fight. So I think it's very key. Tamirov, I want to see who they give him next. I mean, he must be on some sort of a skyrocket. I mean, Jesus Lord, the Tesla one, I guess, because he just went from two fights in the UFC, 1 knockout, I believe. Maybe it was even 1 fight in the UFC. I'm not
I
even
was
too
going to
sure.
say, I think that knockout was his debut.
Okay, so I mean, let's see who he gets next. I mean, if it has to be Josh Van, I mean, he's gonna get cooked. That's all I gotta say.
Well, we shall see. I mean, powerful guy. If he can get it done early, then there's potential there. But yeah, the cardio is definitely going to be the takeaway from this. Is just keep an eye on that because, as I said, a guy fighting at flyweight who's having gas tank issues is a big red flag, just in general.
Yeah,
So that's but good fight though. I enjoyed that fight. A good way
100.
to start this card off. Uh, next fight, not so much. I'd have to say. This fight is unfortunate because this is the exact type of fight that people who criticize women's MMA would point to as like the example of why they have those criticisms. And so like I always hate to see this kind of thing because I don't want to lend credence to that type of mentality. But this was a pretty boring fight, to be perfectly honest. This is a JJ Aldridge versus Andrea Lee, by the way.
I loved it. Oh my God, did I love it. God, you guys don't understand how impressive it is. Like, it's so impressive to be the highest level of mixed martial arts. And you look like, I mean, I'm not even trying to be like that because like JJ Aldridge, hey, shout out you, girl. What I did for $5 to win on, that's fine by me. You did great. Um, Andrea Lee, on the other hand, actually, I want to point out because I want to give you a secret when it comes to women's MMA. I don't know if they do it every time, but specifically, I think it's key. Now that I saw it work once, when it comes up that little bar, like when they're doing the intros and it's got, there's a little one that like highlights and it's like UFC record as favorite or whatever. JJ Aldridge was, like a 6-2 or something like that. And just before I put money on Andrea Lee, excuse me, like a fucking something, I saw that and I was like, oh, never mind. She's got this in the bag. Put it down. JJ Aldridge coasted to this, maybe not even coasted. I don't know.
Oh no, she absolutely coasted. Yes.
Okay, yeah. This I can't tell you much that happened, but I can tell you JJ Aldridge won. But that should tell you something because Andrea Lee, you're gonna be at the bottom of the list when I start formulating the pound for pound stuff right now. Like you're gonna be pretty bad.
I
So
mean, I don't think she's going to stick around much longer to be able to make the list. If my suspicions are correct, she is now at 6 losses in a row. So that is pretty wild work, which is also brings me to a point that I definitely need to make here. This is one of 2 apologies that I need to make to a viewer from the watch along. I do the watch along with the Vitz King. We have a good time hanging out over there. We got a viewer that hangs with us named Arrogant Savage. Great dude, friend of the channel. I have to issue, this is the first of 2, but this is an apology because I don't know what I was thinking when I thought that Andrea Lee was a good dog in this fight. I think I even said it on the show that I thought Lee might have been a good dog. Now, I guess the theoretical thinking could have been that she's fighting for her job right now. I mean, she's coming off of 5 losses in a row. A sixth is pretty much, I mean, how she even got to 5 losses is wild to begin with, but wanted to issue that apology off rip because I believe that Savage put a little bit of money down based on what I had said there. And I am going to take these predictions and, the things that I say a little bit more seriously going forward for that exact reason. First of all, never listen to any of it, with any kind of definitive authority. Like that just should be from the outset understood. But even within that, yeah, you can listen to Chase more than you can listen to me. But but that being said, I will still do better due diligence than to shoot from the hip and give Andrea Lee as the good dog, because she certainly was not.
I will take some blame too. Up until the final moment, I also was thinking, no way can you lose 6 in a row. Like, come on, there's no way you can lose 6 in a row. Like, and I actually want to throw this in there. I think pretty privilege is a thing in the UFC because no way do you get 6 losses. And you say, if she does, listen, she must bring in some dough. Somebody shows up for her and gets front row seats. I mean, listen, this girl right here, Andrea Lee. Oh, I mean, she at least landed 66 strikes. I'll give it to her. She landed more than maybe anybody on a 6-fight losing streak should. So,
I mean, what level of strike are we talking about? But the note that I had is this was the softest hard spar of all time. Yeah.
yeah, I can see it. I think there was one time it says sub attempt, and I'm trying to think back. Did she have her in a sub attempt that was like maybe tight? Maybe I was worried for a second. I don't believe so though. I don't believe
Yeah,
so.
I don't think so. We talk all the time about how the numbers are always a little bit off. They do not tell the story of the fight. I mean, none of these numbers tell the story of this fight, in my opinion, because this just was really, like I said, it was a spar. I mean, basically, nice takedown for Aldrich in the first round, but didn't do anything with it. Good takedown defense when Lee wasn't putting much into her attempts. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, I'm trying to think of some things to say about this. I mean, I thought that Aldrich split the guard nicely a couple of times with some of her strikes. Like some of Aldrich's strikes were not bad. I mean, like they were well placed, but the power just wasn't there to make them anything more than taps. So, she got a little bit more volume out of it. Lee was really just kind of feinting a lot, but not actually like going for it when the time was right. She was very fast twitch without much actual output, I felt. That's pretty much as far as I got with any kind of like actual assessment of the fight itself.
Yeah, if I don't remember anything, it must be really bad. I mean, I'm normally pretty good on moments. If there's a key thing that happened, I do remember the takedown. I remember thinking that was good. That secured it kind of deal. But she was probably up anyways. So yeah, once again, these women are not going to make it very high on the pound for pound list, but we will go ahead and give them consideration for trying, medals
Sure.
around.
There you go. Exactly. Fair enough. But I did have this interesting point because I didn't have too much to say about the fight itself. And again, shout out to Arrogant Savage for bringing this to my attention because this is one of the MMA lore pieces that I guess somehow escaped me in the past. Are you familiar with the Andrea Lee Nazi ex-husband story?
No, that is crazy. Okay, well, this is what? How many weeks into 2025 has there been a Nazi headline? Like, this is crazy.
We've got Nazis, we've got new dog touching. It's just it's a whole world of interesting things going on in the MMA space as always. But yeah, so basically the story there is that Andrea Lee, I guess in 2018, was married to this I guess either former or current Nazi dude who had a tattoo that sparked some controversy online, became a bit of a thing for that time of her career. And this guy, I guess, ended up being a domestic abuser. And then when I guess the cops were notified or whatever, went on the run for a number of weeks. So this dude was a fugitive for a while and finally ended up getting caught. And now they are no longer together. So good for Andrea Lee to get out of that situation. But crazy story as part of the lore.
I mean, hey, listen, sounds like perfect boyfriend material to me. This is exactly what they go for. I don't know. But no, that is pretty crazy. Do we know what was the tattoo? Can I ask what the tattoo was?
I
Was it
believe it was a straight up swastika.
He just went for okay, all right.
Full on, yeah. None of those more cryptic ones that are like, you
Like
have
it
to decipher.
was it like on his neck? Like I know I'm asking too much. Like
Yeah,
where
that I
was it?
don't know. I'd have to
Okay,
go
okay.
and find the
But
actual
but
image.
the swastika is crazy. Okay. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, so I mean there you go. That's just the end of that one. A shout out to the Vitz King for the joke. Andrea Lee had to go get herself a less abusive Nazi to shack up with now. So, but that is all speculation. That's jokes. Anyway, cut Andrea Lee. 6 losses in a row. Get out of here. I'm not having this kind of a fight anymore. Aldrich gets her black belt in Taekwondo off of this fight. Fine, I guess. Her going up against higher level competition, I would not be super confident. I'm done with this fight. You got anything else?
No, 13 and 11. That's crazy. I mean, you might as well call it a career. You made it to the highest level. There's probably nothing left for Miss Lee.
Yeah, maybe some kind of competition outside of the UFC, but yeah, I think her time has come.
All right, first step. Let's get
Yeah,
into it.
let's move on here. Lucas Almeida versus Danny Silva. Almeida misses weight. He's the only person on the card to miss weight. I believe he missed by 2.5 pounds, something like that.
Yes.
So, significant weight miss. Did not end up winning this fight. What'd you think?
I was telling you guys you got to listen to me, and this is the first step in the process. I will admit, the beginning of the week, and I may have said it on the podcast, I was a little worried. Lucas Almeida was very impressive in his last performance, and then he comes in, he misses weight. At that point, I was sold. At that point, he missed weight, and I was convinced. Not at that moment was I convinced, but beforehand, I already decided Danny Silva. Excuse me. Danny Silva has been somebody I watched since the Contender Series. He put on a matchup performance that is one of my favorite fights of all time. Then he comes into his debut and he also wins. So why would I sit here and think that he's not going to do what he's done his entire career, which is beat the dog shit out of people with his slick boxing, and you miss weight against my boy. Now you got another thing coming. You got a death sentence. And that's exactly what I'm happy to be the only person that said. Everybody in the Discord, they went Lucas Almeida, weight miss, taller. Actually, I think they were the same height, but more, whatever you want to say. Actually, I think there was some ground game that they were talking about this dude had. But Danny Silva, slick boxing, came out here, inflicted the punishment for 2 rounds. They gave him only 2 rounds, which is kind of crazy. I think 3 rounds was convincing. And then me of all people, deserve to get screamed at for robbery for like 2 fights after this because Danny Silva was the man to do it. I'm just saying, like, I don't get it. I didn't think this one was even close, and split decision, whatever. Danny Silva's the fucking guy.
Well, okay, so let me address these the points here, and I think why the perception might be a little bit off, and this definitely came from the rewatch. So this fight also had the feeling of a hard spar. Like Silva was landing a few really nice combos. It was a good performance for Silva for sure. But neither guy really seemed like they wanted to tap into the killer instinct we talk about to hunt down a finish. So I think that the issue was that, like, upon the rewatch specifically, this was a clear 2-1 for Silva. I forget which round that I had for Almeida, but in the moment, it felt a lot closer. And that is what happens when you don't have the instinct to finish. Like, so, if Silva really wanted to make this like a clear, definitive, no questions asked kind of thing, then really, I think probably like towards the later half of the second half of the fight period, like he probably should have turned it up to the point where it was like, okay, this guy is really hunting for it, because the ring generalship is something that's going to come up in a note a little bit later. Dom made that, phrased it that way. And I was like, that is something that people do not put enough like emphasis on. Like, you go in there and make it definitive that you are there to win the fight. It goes a long way. Your body language, the way that the pressure I talk about all the time, all of those things are commanding the fight. And that, I think, is what was lacking in this fight, pretty much from both sides. But from Silva, as the dude who I believe clearly won the fight, it should have been coming a little bit more from him, even though his boxing was really nice.
I think I know at heart Danny Silva is unfortunately a volume puncher. Like he's gonna drop mean combos, rip the body, go up top. But the only finish that I see him getting at this time in his career is going to be like a late third round TKO from gassing somebody out. And I think this was the first fight. Well, obviously there wasn't that many before. The first fight of the night where we realized, or noticed that the judging was, they were awarding the pressure and the pacing. I think I took note of this. Danny Silva was the one walking forward. Lucas Almeida was the one, getting pushed against the cage and getting battered, whatever you want to say. But I don't believe Danny Silva won't have trouble in the future with how he fights. I did not say that. I do believe he has some improvements to make. He could do a lot more. Shot 3 takedowns. I mean, hey, I can't complain. But this fight, I thought he was going to be able to edge it. I actually was worried. Like I said, I went decision because when you have two people who are like kind of dogs and maybe one will finish each other, sometimes it's that sparring match, and like you're explaining this one is, which I completely disagree. I thought this, fight of the night up until now, but Danny Silva, I'm glad I went with this. This is why you trust your eyes of what you've seen people do, and you understand, it's the video game system. What can they do against each other? I know we've been wrong before, but I don't know. Something about Danny Silva has always stuck out to me. And I'm just saying, guys, he's coming for you.
Yeah, I don't think that my assessment has anything like really any bearing on Silva as like a, going forward in his career kind of situation or anything like that. I just think that like because the other note that I had here is that like several shots that Silva landed looked like they could have been deadly if they had been thrown with a little bit more intention. And that's what I'm going at with when it comes to like the feeling of the spar. Because it's like these guys were definitely both throwing volume. They were both landing. There was some nice exchanges there. It was just that like one needed to pull ahead and really like like we talked. I go back to Peyton Talbot because I think it's just a good example of that. And you made that point a while back where it was like he just doesn't seem like he like wants to go after the win. Like he has this like lackadaisical kind of approach. I'm not saying that this is necessarily that exactly, but like pushing through to make it very apparent that you are winning the fight, like it goes a long way. It's a visual thing, and you got to think about too the fact that the judges are seeing it from cage side. Like the presentation of domination goes a long way in their eyes as well. So like this, I feel like this did not have to be a split decision had Silva had a little bit more of that.
Well, if it means anything, in my eyes, it wasn't a split decision. I mean, obviously, I'm one person. I can't tell you what 3 judges would pick, but I I thought he convincingly won 2, if not 3. I mean, and the cardio I want to actually give a shout out to. Danny Silva is able, again, push the pace into the third round, dropping long combinations. The numbers don't really tell the story for how good of a striker Danny is. And I don't mean good as in like how accurate or whatever, but like the way that he strikes, he drops a lot more numbers in the sequence than somebody who's, just pitter patting with a jab or dropping or trying to counter strike, which is what Lucas Almeida was forced to do a lot in this because Danny Silva's pressure is just on that fucking shit. And that's going to be a good, like, I talk about Josh Van a lot, but I do, compare Danny Silva a little bit to Josh Van. He's a volume puncher. He's not really going to knock you out. He's just going to beat you down until you're done. And I think it's a really good comparison. But Danny Silva, I can't give more praise. You are the fucking man. Shout out you.
Fair enough. I mean, he got the win. I think he deserved the win. That's pretty much about it. I would personally say just go out there and tap into your inner killer a little bit more. That's really all the main takeaway from all of this. Is it's all about this specific fight, but like in the broader sense that if you have that killer instinct a little bit deeper to kind of present yourself that way a little bit more, you tap into that, and then all of the other pieces are already in place.
I think what's key going forward is you once again get another performance where you watch Danny Silva A, not give up on himself, B, not not underestimate itself, but not try to use abilities that he doesn't possess. He plays right into his wheelhouse. He knows what's gonna work. And while he doesn't get unanimous decisions, quote unquote, by the judges, He knows how to get the win. We talk about split decision people all the time. It's not going to work forever, but some people at a time just know how to get that extra leg on the opponent. And Danny Silva, for the time being, history showing that he's just that dude to do it. And whether that means I'm going to bet on him with his next guy, I know for fact he's going to go he's going to go hard. He's going to try. And if it's a good money bet because he's going to perform at the highest level that he's able to at the time.
Yeah, most definitely. And, at the end of the day, we talked about it at the beginning of the assessment here. The fact that he beat a dude who came in 2.5 pounds overweight, that speaks pretty highly as well. So
Yeah,
good
we
stuff.
beat his ass. Loved
Right
it.
on. All right. Well, fair enough there. Let's keep it moving here. This next one was a fight I quite enjoyed. This is Jose. I don't know if you knew that it was his actual name, but Jose Chepe Mariscal. You probably know him as Chepe Mariscal versus Ricardo Ramos. What did you think of Mr. Chepe, sir?
I think, well, one, let me not get into my Shepe spiel. I want to say that I thank the Discord for swaying me away from Shepe knockout. I was going to do that, right? And it's because I did not believe Ricardo Ramos is somebody to worry about. But then, the Discord, they wanted me to believe that, and I do believe it now. Ricardo Ramos is a savvy vet. He's a dude that's going to fight through it and he's going to get to the belt. And I did see that after he got rocked by Shepe, because Shepe did have a moment where he kind of had him on the ropes. But Shepe is unfortunately not somebody like, and I know we were supposed to see him fight, maybe it was this card, but Steve Garcia. He is not somebody like Steve Garcia who could come out here and he's just going to flatline people, week after week, quote unquote. But Shepe is just unfortunately not. He's not a killer, He's a dude that I'm comfortable saying yes, he can go to decision, and it's because he's able to grapple and out overpower people, not even outmaneuver him. He doesn't even need to do that because he's just a brute when it comes to the grappling. And then his striking, it is powerful and it is effective. But I think also Ricardo Ramos is one of these dudes that when you punch him, he's gonna fly 4 feet from the impact and sell it a little bit. Not in the sell sense, but I don't know. Shepe is very talented, but he's again somebody that I'm okay picking decision on. I just don't know. I just don't feel he's got that oomph in his the mindset is there, but the skill set I don't think is lending to a finisher.
Yeah, you're queuing me right up because I have, the note that I had about that was that I worry that Chepe might be one of those guys who is just on the cusp of elite level, but might not achieve it. I wish that he had finished this fight, as he's especially knocking on the door of ranked competition at this point. So we'll see. I mean, I'm tending to agree with what you're saying here, but all that being said, Chepe is still a fucking gangster, though. I like this guy. I still like, even with that being what it is, this dude, round one with a beautiful hip toss. This dude his tosses were really, really nice. Almost gets him into some sticky leg work on the ground. Chepe gets back up and open hand slaps him for it. That is gangster shit. So I can appreciate that in and of itself, just by itself. But
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if you saw. I think it was maybe the third round where his coaches were yelling, "You're the machine! You're the machine!" And he's just walking forward trying to punt. It's really good. Shepe is cool. I'm not trying to downplay him. I could look at his record and I could, be very curious about like where he could stand later on in his career. But specifically this one right here, he was very dominant. If he's able to perform like this on a on more events against competition that is higher each time, I'm very impressed. But, I would like you to be able to finish somebody like Ricardo Ramos, because somebody's going to be able to combat your brute style wrestling. They're not going to let that happen, and maybe they will be more slick jujitsu style and they just are able to float, because this is still featherweight at the end of the day. Like you get somebody like Diego Lopez who's able to, like, he can float around you kind of deal. And then if Shepe goes up against, and maybe he already did, if he goes up against like Dan Ige or something, like his wrestling is going to get very nullified and he's going to have to rely on the striking a lot more. And then if you package that together, I know Ilya is not here, but if you're looking forward at the champ, or the vacant champ, having all that in one package, it would cause a problem for Shepe, and he might not have an aggressive style in that style fight because he might have to just figure his way around working the abilities that aren't able to work for him at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. It is like, the pieces of the puzzle all have to kind of align. And if one is less than the other at any given time, then there's deficits there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I mean, yeah, I can see that being an issue. I think that Chepe is a dude who does take the sport pretty seriously, though. So, like, they were talking about him missing weight in his last fight, and apparently, this is kind of wild. He apparently missed weight because he has an allergy to tomatoes and pistachios. He found this out by going to a nutritionist who helped him fix this problem. All of that signals to me, apparently he was very like, he owned that weight miss. He was not happy with himself. He was beating himself up about it. All of that signals to me that he takes, his craft pretty seriously. So I say all of that to say, perhaps there's still some elevation of certain elements that he's still working through to get himself to where he wants to be, and maybe even out some of these elements and, put some silencing to these criticisms that we might have. It's possible, because I mean, he is a high pressure fighter, which I always appreciate, time and time again, I'm talking about it. But I think Dom made a really good point about this element on commentary. He was saying that Ramos was trying to get space. He wanted the space so that he could throw, Ramos was throwing a lot of like nice spinning attacks, some good spinning elbows from him. He definitely came to fight. But like Chepe would just not give him the space that he needed to operate, which is like, that's what we see from Fluffy Hernandez, who is now, worked his way up pretty high. So, I mean, there is potential that like, if he can level out some of these other elements, then maybe there's more to him than what we're giving him credit for, just based on the couple of fights that we've seen so far. Potentially that could be the case. I mean, he's certainly an agile guy. He landed that Street Fighter 2 alpha flying kick at the end of that one round. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, dude, Shepe is fun. I have no problem watching him. I think it's gonna be real interesting when he comes into a fight, and it's gonna be an opponent that is a lot better than he expected, or maybe even Vegas expected. Like, I would really like to see the fight where, on paper, well, Vegas may or may not have him as an underdog ever at this point, until he gets, a loss. But if he did come in as a dog in a fight and he was the opponent with the lesser skills, it would be more impressive. Um, for me to see him work through that. I think a performance like this, a dominant performance, okay, you can do that against a lot of opponents because a lot of people are not as good as you in this world. More than half the world is not as good as you. You can do that to anybody. Find somebody that's better than you and figure out how to beat them. I'm ready to see that now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah, but I mean, in this fight here, good win for Chepe. So good,
Yeah, I get it.
good.
100%.
Yeah, good money to put down. I was happy with that. Before we move on, just want to shout out everybody who's hanging out with us. Much appreciated. Anakin, saw you, Beeb, earlier. Much appreciated. Rage Quit and Checkmate, thanks for checking in. I am going to hit you up about some content stuff a little bit later. Moving on to the next fight, we got Austin Lane versus Mario Pinto. I saw some criticisms going around in the Discord about Mr. Pinto in this performance against Austin Lane. What was that all about, Chase?
Okay. Well, I don't know if you were just I feel like you're gonna be on the opposite side of the coin. So I'm gonna assume you were listening to the commentary where they're like, yeah, he was saying this fight, he's gonna be real slow the first round, and then he's gonna come out hard. No, this dude, talk about slow in the first round. Even in the second round, he didn't do anything up until he throws a meaty fucking hook, dude. And Austin Lane, in a very short amount of time, showcase that you can stand with this dude and get success, and then I don't know why he didn't wrestle, but he probably would have fucking got it if he would have shot like 8 fucking takedowns, but like he did on Robel. Actually, he only got the one and probably laid on him for 5, and then he probably only got 3 in that fight, let's be real.
A
But
lot of clinching in that one.
yeah, anyway, Austin Lane did very good, which is not good. Why would you, like, I know, okay, so if you're Mario Pinto, you do not let this fucking dude have any success on you. And Mario Pinto really didn't do anything up until a knockout, which, okay, sure. Do you want to be a traditional heavyweight at this point in the era of the UFC? Go for it. But I just think there's a lot more heavyweights right now. And I say a lot, but I just can't think of them. I know Teixeira, Towson Teixeira is one that I can know. He throws a lot of actually Julius Walker is a very good example. They
He's
they
light
throw
heavyweight, but yeah, I know what you mean.
they throw kicks. They're very they are strike heavy still, but they don't just load up on one strike that's going to knock them out. No, they play the chess game a lot better now, and they do mix in the wrestling sometimes. And the clinch work can get real nasty for some people. So I just think Mario Pinto. Another thing's coming if you think this is what's going to get you by very like far now. I think very soon, Austin Lane, he can go, but like any other probably beats Mario Pinto, I think.
Well, all right. I'm kind of in line with most of this, but I do want to take a step back, and in his defeat, I do want to sing a few praises of Austin Lane. I think that at this point, he's been around for a couple of fights now. Finally got his win. We were talking about that just a second ago against Rebellis, but he's been doing his thing for a little minute. Former football player, so I think that he's finally coming into his own when it comes to the movement and the timing. Obviously, there's a decent amount of power as well. He looks like an actual MMA fighter at this point, and not just a football larper. You know what I mean? Like, which I think is something that you need, especially at heavyweight, where it's such a quick and easy check that can showcase all of your flaws, on a snap of the finger kind of thing. He did drop Pinto in the first round, took that round. I'd say that Lane took round one, came out swinging in the second round. So all of those things I think are positive notes. That all being said, he is just too chinny, and it's an unfortunate reality that I don't know if there's much that you can really do about that. Like you're fighting at heavyweight, you're starting off at heavyweight. It's such a huge factor in everything that you're going to have to deal with. I don't know what the future looks like for him with that being the main note. Because all you have to do is go down. I mean, he's a huge guy to begin with, so even making light heavyweight would be a pretty tall order to begin with. But even if you do, you're going down. Chin gets a little bit weaker if you go down. Generally, is the conventional thought there. I worry about Austin Lane's longevity in this sport. So I'm not saying that I really like off of this performance would like say, yeah, cut this guy immediately or anything like that. But like, I do worry for him going forward. When it comes to Pinto, I thought that he was calm and composed throughout all of the adversity that he was facing. I thought that was a good note. He found the shot eventually. That being said, does he inspire tremendous confidence going forward based on this? I mean, this was his debut, though. Keeps his
I
own.
I want to say, I'll tell you exactly what the issue was. Austin Lane actually looked very good in the first round. He
Right.
was very mobile. He was able to keep his distance, and he was actually moving a lot. And I think that was to his detriment because the second round, he just started to stand in front of Pinto. He didn't move at all. And unfortunately, you let the dude on his debut out 4D chess you. He's like, okay, I'm gonna come out here and I'm gonna gas him out, and then I'm gonna blah 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 blah. Austin Lane came out looking great, made me think like, holy shit, this was a fucking this. I threw a little change on it, and I'll tell you, this was a really dumb one. I put sub or decision, and I'm thinking, maybe he'll get him down, like he did Rebellis, and maybe arm triangle or something. I don't know, sub or decision. He'll do control time like he did Rebellis. What was the difference here? Did you genuinely not trust? Like you thought Robellis was a bigger threat, and as we know, Robellis is the god, but you didn't trust this dude's striking as much as you did Robellis because Robellis, you tackled him. So I don't know where that was this one, and I think Austin Lane. I don't know. It was just hard to see because you were doing so good. Like the fall off was one round, and you just instantly died. And not even trying to say it like that, but the knockout was pretty vicious, dude. It
It
was
was.
pretty vicious.
Yeah, and then that's what I'm saying about the chinniness. I mean, like, I hate to call him a glass Joe, but like the way he went down off of that shot was just instant. It really was a lights out situation. Uh, yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for Lane. That all being said, Pinto keeps his O, and we'll see what he can do going forward. I think we both said, basically, inspiring confidence. Not necessarily. He looked like he was getting a little frustrated, maybe in himself, through that first round at least. Which is why after he finally did get the knockout, he was like barking up a storm for a second there. He kind of like regained his, yeah, that's who I was supposed to be kind of feeling, which is okay. But you're going up against some dudes who hit pretty goddamn hard and have better chins. So, I don't know. I don't know about Pinto.
Yeah, I mean, if his game is going to be who hits harder in the heavyweight, I mean, you may make it far, but Derek Lewis is still kicking, brother. So if you want to
Good
be that
point.
guy, you can hurry up and get two more, and we'll settle it. So I don't know.
Yep,
Actually,
that
I
is
got a Brazilian named Denise that probably needs to work right now.
a that yeah, I could get with that one. Um, Before we move on, I did want to ask. I forgot to ask it in the Discord for any of our international viewers out there, specifically people in the UK. Let me know if "Bing Bang Boom" is a phrase that is often said over there, or if that's just something that Pinto says himself, because he said that a whole hell of a lot, and it sounded kind of goofy to me.
Bing Bang Bosh, by the
There
way.
you go. Yes, "Bing
Yeah, yeah.
Bang Bosh." Thank you. Thank
I
you. Yes.
I don't know where I've heard it before though, so it's not like a him thing. It's definitely
Okay.
a thing. Yeah.
This is an international saying that I'm just not aware of.
Yeah, I don't it might be just one of those videos where a dude said it in like a fucking clip and like it just went viral, like
Could have been, yeah. Well, whatever the case is, he said it a whole bunch, so maybe that's his catchphrase now.
I mean, everybody's got to make a meme now. I mean,
Indeed. Well, speaking of memes, let's move on to this next fight because I think Left Hand to God was getting memed pretty hard after this one. At least just the name itself, Left Hand to God, Left Hand to the Cemetery, that guy, whatever. Anyway, this is Danny Barlow versus Sam Patterson, and I wanted to start this off with my second apology to Arrogant Savage, because this was another one where a few clicks of the mouse, a few seconds of due diligence could have changed the entire trajectory of how the betting perspective was when it came to the watch along. So again, second apology to Savage, because I, coming into this fight, had forgotten the conversation that we had on this show about Barlow's last performance. Neither of us were impressed. We were saying that this guy is like, he's got to do a lot more. He wasn't really showcasing anything that we thought was very standout. And you know who that fight was against? That fight was against Nikolai Veretennikov, the man who just lost and then shoved Austin Vanderford, who we just talked about on a previous episode. So I am so sorry for ever having believed in what very well could be. I don't like to put the fraud label out there. I think it's disrespectful to the fighters, but Barlow very well might be an actual fraud. He might be a dude who's LARPing as a fighter.
okay, I'm gonna have to go ahead and say that Elite in the Discord, I owe you a lot of credit, man. You did get this one. You didn't get it right, but you knew that Sam Patterson had it. And I did listen. I was giving it to the bias of the English mate. I was like, oh, okay, well, obviously he's gonna go for his boy. And then he did bring up that Danny Barlow, and I was kind of confused because he said he beat the Nikolai guy from last week. And I'm like, that don't add up, man. No way. This had to have been like early on his career. And then I eventually look and I'm like, this was this motherfucker's last fight, really? Like you went to a split decision with that guy,
Yeah.
and then so the fight starts. We find. I don't know why this is not told more across the community. Like when people go up or down weights, Sam Patterson went up a weight for this. So, needless to say, him packing a little more punch, it was still unexpected because I don't bet on twinks too often. I'm not gonna lie, boys. So this one was very interesting because while Elite was telling me that Sam Patterson's gonna sub him, I don't think anybody in their right mind. I'm pretty sure it was like a plus fucking 1300 or something for
Yeah.
Sam Patterson to just come out here and starch Danny Barlow on the feet. the shot that landed wasn't even clean. It like grazed his head, but then he just went wobbling and fell over. It was a clear indication that, like, yo, is this dude like never been like punched? Like, really? Like, he's just starched everybody like a normal, like a heavyweight would kind of deal. And he's never, I'm not saying never, but like the adversity that he faced here, Sam Patterson went for the kill, put him on the cage, started pounding head against the canvas. Mike Beltran, I'm screaming, "Where are you?" The dude, you know the fight is over before the dude has to put his hand up and before he starts dribble. Like, it was really bad. Mike Beltran, I know we want finishes, but Lord have mercy, they don't need to be like that. So
I didn't think it was as bad. I think it looks worse on the replay than in real time. But yeah, he did take a dribble. You are correct about that.
true.
But so when it comes to Patterson, when I saw this is the big note about Patterson is that I think that the underestimation was rampant throughout the entire community when it comes to Patterson. When I saw on the graphics going into this fight, when he was entering the cage, that he had finished 11 of his 12 wins with 4 knockouts and 7 subs, I was like, that's when I knew I'd fucked up when it comes to the Barlow situation. I like, or not remembering the conversation that we had about Barlow. I got suckered in by the O. But
Yeah.
like you'd said though, was not expecting the knockout. Like I think a lot of people weren't, but damn if he didn't do it. I mean, I think that the issue, at least, and I was being a little bit facetious when I was talking all the fraud talk about Barlow. But what I think happened with him in this fight is that he pushed forward a lot. He was trying to lead the dance and had Patterson on the back foot, but the counters were there for Patterson, so it almost worked counterintuitively to what he was trying to do. He was trying to bring the fight to Patterson. Patterson, a much more experienced guy. They talked about that on commentary too, where a lot of the fights that he had been in previously were against guys with a lot more experience than him. So it's like, not only is he more experienced just in his record, but he's fighting more experienced fighters on top of that. That adds to the experience level to an extent as well. So I just think that the awareness in this fight was all on the side of Patterson. And you definitely saw the awareness when Patterson realized that he had him hurt off that shot you were talking about that wobbled him, goes in, right hand for the kill shot was beautifully placed. The one that was just straight down Main Street, right to his nose. And then, of course, the shots afterwards were what you're talking about when his head got bounced. A little unfortunate, but this is the fight game. It happens.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's unfortunate. This is the unfortunate side. There's a lot of fighters that can come in here and have this confident persona. And I don't think Danny Barlow is one of those people that's like a real cocky kind of guy, but like he does come in with a little bit of he calls himself left-handed God, He does have he tries to build a little aura around him. He comes in with a funky hairstyle. I don't know if you caught that. He does have a braided rat tail.
Funny that you mentioned that because on the previous episode that I told you that I listened back to when we were having the conversation, we were talking about how at the time he had the Charles Johnson style skullet going on. And I had said, you have to earn that hairstyle, sir. That's Charles Johnson's territory. And now the hairstyle is even funkier a little bit. He's got the 2 rows and
Yeah.
the top was a little bit longer. So he kind of switched it up a little bit, but still not earning the funkiness, I guess.
Yeah, I just think it was a crazy, crazy moment to happen. This is the second of 3 dogs that hit in succession, the only dogs, I believe. Which was kind of crazy to happen because I often try to go by the numbers, like, oh, we just saw a dog. We saw. Oh, sorry, this is one of 3, maybe. Yeah, first of 3. Sorry, not the second. Um, this one's just crazy, man. I don't know. I'm really upset that it happened because Danny Barlow, another undefeated prospect defeated by 2025. I'm not gonna say that I dislike the dude. I'm upset that he lost because I'm upset everybody loses, I guess. But this is only gonna make you better. And like I said, the shot that you took, the one that knocked you off balance, that's an easy Like, I don't think that was like a world killer. Like, it's not like you got like chinned and you're like chicken dancing. Like, you kind of just got knocked off balance. Then you got put up against the cage and you took some shots, but it wasn't the worst thing ever. It's only going to make you better, man. And I think looking forward, that's what you can do is just appreciate that you got the experience from an experienced fighter, just like Sam Patterson. That's how he got better. And that's how he beat you, is learning from the people that beat him, kind of deal.
Yeah, and that was going to be the question that I had, is what would be next for Barlow. So I guess you kind of laid it out there, take this as a learning experience and work on some stuff. But I just, I don't know. You put me on to the term, the eye test, when it comes to MMA. Like I didn't really have like a definitive way to like say that before, but like the eye test is a really good like way to put it. And there's just something about Barlow that I don't know if he passes the eye test for me. I don't know if it was that last performance paired with this or just something about the way he carries himself, but there just seems, and that's why I was kind of going a little bit hard with the fraud talk early. Like, I was being a little jokey, but like at the same time, there's just something that I'm like, I don't know. I just don't see it. So that could just be all on me. Maybe it's just a perception thing from where I'm sitting, but I'd be very cautious, at least from the way that I perceive this guy. I'd be very cautious to put any major backing on him unless he's fighting, a straight up, guy coming, walking off the street kind of thing.
I think what is key to know, and why I'm giving Danny Barlow a little more leeway than I probably would some fat heavyweight kind of deal, is like when you are athletic and you can drop bombs, like you've been knocking people out since this moment. You're a finisher be finished person. That's just how it goes, kind of deal. Um, Danny Barlow, I think, like I said, as an athletic person, all you got to do is you have the striking to rely on now. It takes a little determination to build the other aspects to your game. It, Genetics go a long way, and you could probably be really good at a sprawl. I know you didn't get taken down or anything, but like you could probably be really good at the sprawl. You could probably shoot a really good double leg, maybe a trip. Like you can just learn these little things that when you do get rocked, you can instinctually grab and instead of fucking flailing across the you can just do different things and just pick up different aspects of it. Because right now, what you got beat by Sam Patterson. And who's Sam Patterson? If you ask anybody, you could probably find 15 other fucking careers, 1,500 careers where that dude comes up before the UFC. So I don't know. It's just crazy.
Well, and that was going to be my last point on this fight, is that I believe now, I think it's time to start putting some fucking respect on Sam Patterson's name. I mean, I just had said 11 of 12 wins with the 4 knockouts and our 5 now knockouts and 7 submissions. I mean, this guy seems like he might be a legitimate threat. Maybe it's time to respect that a little bit more, right?
I could get with it, but I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to say that I could see this dude because I've only seen one good performance, like with my eyes that I remember. Maybe I've seen him before and it wasn't that great of a performance, but he knocked him out and he finished the dude, and it wasn't like an all-out war where he proved something in my eyes, like, oh, I see, like that's his way to victory. Like I'm not seeing that with my eyes yet, so I can't say too sure that whatever's coming for him is great, but step up in fucking competition, of course. Like you're getting a dude, this is his second UFC fight or something like that. So Sam Patterson, you can get a higher competition. Whether you're going to be able to finish him, I don't know, but you pack a punch now, it seems. So we will see if that at this new weight, I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going with it. I want to remember Sam Patterson and give him the proper respect coming into his next fight, unless he's fighting some kind of crazy killer.
True. I mean, at welterweight, what do you see next for him?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, is he? I don't know if he'd be ready necessarily for ranked opposition just yet, but probably not too far off.
Neil
Again,
Magny, let's go.
oh well, I mean, yeah. If you want to really do the gatekeeper situation, then sure, yeah, I could absolutely see that fight. Yeah, that'd be fine.
All right.
Neil Magny has to get back home from karate combat first.
True. Yeah.
That was a fun time. We Chase and I watched Karate Combat on Friday. You can see the VOD of our watch along over on his channel. Anyway, all right, moving on. We had Hyder Emil versus William Gomez. I loved this fight. This was a great, great fight. And were it not for the fight after this, even with the fight after this on the watch along, we were saying that this was fight of the night. But I can certainly understand people saying that the next fight was, a little bit better. But either way, this was a fantastic fight that I think was great on both sides. What do you think?
I want you to understand. So, the slip that I showed you, that dollar was placed, you know, back way, back when, the decisions that I had on there. But anyway, that was it. I'm out of money now because Danny Barlow blew it. So I'm riding on Hyder Emil to be exactly the guy that I thought he was. And not only is he, but I will admit, and I'll say it off rip, when the bell rang, I thought Gomi won the first 2 rounds. But if I went with the judging and how they were scoring, the aggressive pace that fighters were putting on, the ability to eat the big shots and just push forward and land more, um, I think Hyder Emil was the perfect fucking dog on this card because man, did he fight like a fucking dog. This dude's a rabid animal. To come in at a plus 200 for somebody that's 10-0, I know undefeated records, but like you're not watching if you think this is just some other undefeated prospect. This is not Danny Barlow. This is not fucking Estevam. This dude is a monster. He'll come at you the entire fucking fight. He'll be gassed, like so you can tell that he's fucking tired, but he'll never fucking like his body is not going to react to tiredness. Apparently, he's just he drops bombs. He took such big shots from Gomi. I thought that's why they were going to give it to him. I'm not going to lie. Gomi gave him some really big counter shots in round 1 and 2. Round 3, the pace was pushed. Hyder Emil was still doing the same thing it wasn't necessarily like, okay, it worked because he won, but it wasn't working in the sense where he's like dominating the fight. Like he had to take a lot to give in this fight. Split decision is perfectly warranted, but this is exactly what Gomi gets for playing that fucking GameStop. Like this is what you get for that play style. You come out here and you run the entire fight and you play on the back foot and you get pushed against the cage. You actually sat on the cage multiple times, just waving him on, and you didn't do enough to win. And I hope that proves to your 12 fight win streak that it just you should have been listening to the criticism that people were giving you, because there's no way that you thought you were just going to skate by and people were going to reward a passive fight style. You have Hyder Emil who's pushing everything in your face. He's aggressive. He's throwing big shots. He's eating every shot that you're giving, and it's the kitchen sink. William Gomi put everything into it, and Hyder Emil, Iron Chin, Granite came forward, and the judges rewarded accordingly. And I'm very happy, but I did not think that that was going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, this was the fight that Dom was that I referenced earlier, where Dom was talking about ring generalship. Hyder Emil exemplifies ring generalship. This guy is tough as nails. He is relentless with his forward motion. It's really a great watch as a fan. I mean, I really like the way that he fights. This was a razor close fight, though, as you kind of said there. I had round 1 was for Gomez. Round 3 was pretty clearly for Emil. Round 2 was the decider, and after the rewatch, I might have still switched sides a couple times. So I can definitely understand the feeling that it could have gone for Gomez, it could have gone for Emil. I mean, this was a great fight for that reason. But what you're saying about the determination of Hyder is exactly that's the exact note of what I was talking about with Danny Silva. If he had fought similar to this style, I mean, it's not the same deal, but like the same level of like go after it, because not at any point in this fight was Hyder in his mind saying like, oh, I'm tired or I'm out of it or any of that. He was one track to the finish line at all times, and it was really, really cool to see. Even through some of the solid adversity that he took, especially in that first round. Gomez had a fantastic sequence near the end of the round. I mean, like, there was some really nice exchanges going on. I don't know all of the criticism that you were referencing with Gomez, but he was always a dude who, again, didn't really pass the eye test for me in the past. He had that whole weight issue where he had to drop out of that one fight because he cut too much weight, which sort of colored my vision a little bit there. Like, I always just sort of put him in this kind of camp as someone was like, I'm not really. He's not somebody that's going to stick around long enough, even with a great win streak under his belt. I gained a good amount of respect for him in this fight. I thought that the level of intensity that he was bringing to the fight like matched Emil for as long as it could. I thought there was some really nice active clinch situations in this fight with both guys going after it and not accepting positions. So I really enjoyed this fight a lot.
I think also before this fight, people were saying, well, William Gomi beat, Brito. And I think even back then, Brito did not perform like this. I think William Gomi was able to skate by on somebody like Brito who wasn't able to reach the level that Hyder Emil was. But when you have somebody who's one, a rabid animal like Hyder Emil, two, who's actually fucking skilled, and three, can just put it all together in a package that for somebody at the age probably shouldn't be doing it because he's 34, I think it is. Hyder Emil's really fucking old for 11-0.
Is that the
But
case? I did not know that.
yeah, he's old. Hold on,
Okay.
let me double check it just because we're right here. It is 34. Yes, exactly. So
Wow.
he's pretty old for a prospect, but he fights as if, and I don't know this dude, but it's like, he's an old man that's fighting and clawing to try to get it quick, get in and out, blue collar kind of guy. And dude, I'm telling you, another guy that I watched from the Contender Series, and this is why, again, you trust your eye test and you trust the guys that have been doing it in front of your face for so long. Hyder Emil, dude, his last fight, he came out, starts the dude in the first round.
Hell yeah.
And then this one, he came out with the same intensity that he was gonna fit. And I think it might have been. They said some stat that he had a lot of finishes after the second round, or maybe he had no finishes after the second round. I don't remember what it was, but
I know the one you're talking about. I think it was saying that he has a good amount in the second round, I believe.
so it's very impressive that, again, Hyder is still very young into his UFC career. He's very wise though to the game, and it seems to be that he knows how to edge W, especially against somebody who has had 12 people that couldn't do it before. Hyder Emil being the one. Shout out the judging. Even if they got it a little wrong, in my opinion, I thought Gomi was going to win. But I'm very, very happy that Hyder Emil was able to skate away, because these are the type of people that deserve to skate away. If skating away is what you want to call it, that's what they deserve, because they won that fight. So
Yeah. And a lot of times what I'm talking about, where it's like, if it's a close fight like this, then the body language and the intensity, again, the ring generalship that's why it came up on commentary, is what Dom was talking about there. Like, if a lot of things appear to be equal, when you can go by the numbers, the numbers are what they're going to be. But like, you're watching in real time, the judges don't have the numbers in front of them. You're purely judging off of what your visual information is in the moment. And if all things appear equal, the guy who looks like he wants it more is, often going to get the win. So I think this worked out exactly as it should have worked out. Much like the next fight, actually, I mean, that same vein.
yeah, we can move on to it. I'm really excited to talk about that one too, because this is where my genius started to shine.
Well, before we get into this fight, though, I do want to briefly interject to say that this was the point in the broadcast that Dom Cruz got his video package send off into retirement. And I just was curious, because this is a conversation that I had been seeing going around online. Do you have any feelings on Dom Cruz getting his video, this package, the send off in the Apex? Because a lot of people apparently were saying, oh, it should have been in front of a crowd, so he could have had the big reception and all that kind of stuff. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I actually wasn't thinking about that. I thought about the opposite, like, backwards. I'm like, why wouldn't they play this on the night that he was supposed to fight, which would have been in front of a crowd? Um, and the night that he was supposed to be there, then go ahead and play the tribute video, because he pulled out well before that. Why wait a week? But I guess so he can be on the commentary booth, and then John Anik could glaze. Like, I don't know. So I didn't think about the crowd version of it because, like, it's a video playing on a TV screen for most people that are higher up. Like, what are we gonna see, an ant wave? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't really have much of a like a negative perception of it being at the apex. I mean, yeah, it might have been nice for him to get a big crowd reaction. It would have been appropriate, of course. Tom Cruise, a legend in the sport, but I didn't really think it was any kind of massive disrespect. Like you said, he was on commentary there, so it kind of made sense for that. He would not have been on commentary for the event that he was supposed to fight at. So, I guess they could have like flown him out to the event, but if he was injured, then maybe that wouldn't have made sense anyway. Like I I don't think that there was anything wrong with the way that this all worked out. I was glad that they gave him a video package at all. We know that there have been legends who haven't gotten them.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, it could have been an Andrea Lee retirement package, and then Tom Cruise could have just been sitting there stale faced. I don't know.
Yeah, or it could have gotten the Jack Shore, video interstitial between a couple of fights, just playing, on the broadcast feed.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, so I think that the anybody who is criticizing the video element of this for Dom Cruise is maybe being a little bit of a nitpicker on that one.
I also want to note, because you talk about the commentary with John Anik and Dom. I don't know if you heard John Anik at one point goes, "Dom Cruise has left his backpack in front of my chair once again. I keep telling him not to do that." And then like Dom Cruise gets on there, he's like, "I don't know, man. I just gotta lay my backpack." It's like it was the weirdest like point in the
The
commentary.
interactions were always hilarious between the two of them because I think that John Anik is so great at navigating Dom's personality. That's why him and DC don't get along, is because DC does not navigate Dom effectively, and that's why they clash with each other. But John Anik is just enough of a professional to keep it professional, but also enough of a dude with a sense of humor to like be able to kind of bob and weave some funny stuff in there. One other note, because as just since we're talking about it, John Anik during the Andrea Lee fight was really funny to me because as boring as that fight was, there was like once or twice where I think either whoever it was landed a good strike, and John really he does that thing where he like really emphasizes a couple of words here,
Yeah.
and like that he's trolling. So I was like, man, John Anik is okay, man. I really like that guy.
Yeah, he's cool. Did you get actually shout out John Anik. I've been on the John Anik social media app. I don't know if anybody knows anything about it. You guys can get on there and shout me out.
I just found out about this the other day, and what is this? Why does John Anik have an app?
I think you dead ass get on there just to tweet at him, I guess. Like, I don't know. I didn't check it out too much, but like, what else would you get on John Anik's app for other than to talk to John Anik? Like, if John Cena got an app, like, what would I expect it to be other than talking to John Cena? Kind of did.
I couldn't imagine, but I definitely made the joke in the Discord that there are guys who have the John Anik app downloaded in their phone, hidden off into a secret calculator folder so
Yeah.
that their girlfriends don't see it.
Yeah, it's a good thought. Like, John Anik is a funny dude. Why, out of all people to have an app, it's just a UFC commentator. Okay.
I mean, maybe we're gonna have to do some additional research on this. Maybe we'll
Oh
bring it up
yeah.
on stream sometime. But anyway,
Okay.
all right, back to these fights here. Let's talk about Nasrat Haqparast versus Esteban Ribovics. Probably fight of the night if the previous fight that we talked about was not. What'd you think of this one?
I think I'll point out that this how early that I clocked that this was going to go down exactly how it was back at the Danny Silva fight. That was Danny Silva decision. That had to be the first leg. So I had this locked in, and I had a feeling, this was going to be a war. Of course, I was very concerned. Maybe one of them might go out. One of them might get a TKO, one of them might get a KO, because these are two deadly dudes. So that was the biggest worry when the fight came on and I'm watching it. What was very much a concern on my part, and maybe I was biased, but I honestly believed, I thought Nasrat won every round. I thought this was going to be unanimous decision. I thought I was going to be so close because I put Nasrat by split decision plus 1100. That was a good one, and I do believe that it was a unanimous decision, but I'm very glad that Esteban Ribovics is just, again, a junkyard dog who will never quit, who will always try to just throw mean slugs, which is probably why that's part of his downfall, is he doesn't mix it up as much as he should. He only throws high kicks off of his right leg, and it's very easy to crack the puzzle. He just spams hooks and high kicks. But Needless to say, he was able to sway one judge to give him the fight. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for that because listen, had Perez actually put on a fucking killer performance for somebody who has only been in performances where it's kind of him standing in front of the other person and it's not somebody trying to walk in and punch him kind of deal. It's more pitter patter, and then Jamie Malarkey, obviously he fucking puts him into the third. But most of the fights is Hack Perez putting on a volume striking masterclass. This is another person like Danny Silva where the strikes add up, but the power is just not there unless he overloads you. Jamie Malarkey excluded. Nasrat Haqparast looked better than I assumed he would. I'm not gonna lie, because Esteban, he's a deadly dude. 14-1 coming in here. Like, this is pretty impressive. But I also figured he could afford a loss in the judges' book. If this was a war, fight of the night, you don't lose stock. If you get an L early in your career, that doesn't mean much, like Esteban right here. He could still progress forward. He could even leapfrog Nasrat. We've seen him before.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
This is a great performance for Nasrat to skate away with because it makes him look really good because he was really good. He won all 3 rounds, in my opinion. He actually put the hurting on Esteban. That was really crazy to see. It was, like I said, more impressive than I thought it was going to be. Caught him with a lot of clean strikes. Very deceptive with his striking, I will say that, because there's not too much. It's not very creative. It's very technical, but he's able to catch Esteban very easily. And Esteban, listen, I'm not going to say he's the fucking god of defense. He's there to throw slugs and get shit done. But I appreciate that about him. That's why I was very grateful that this went to decision. But man, was I worried that it was not a split decision. I'm serious.
Well, I mean, getting that split decision hit is a crazy hit. So congratulations on that one. But yeah, no, this was a really nice striking war. Really, I mean, great show on both sides. Ribovics, like you said, stays with the kicks. When he could vary it a little bit more, but when they land, they are very nice. So it is a thing to see, and we have seen him finish people with those kicks before. So deadly is a good way to put it. One thing I liked a lot about Nasrat's game plan was not only his offensive movement, but the defensive responses. Like, not only the countering volume of Ribovics, like countering Ribovics's volumes, like as part of it, but like he was doing a lot of definitive force motions when it came to the output that he had to navigate what Ribovics was putting in front of him. Like his game planning in the fight, I thought was really good to complement the technicality that you were talking about, because his technical striking is really nice. His left hand is a cannon. He should be left hand to God. That should be Nasrat Haqparast. But I always
left hand to Allah. Come on
that
now.
good point. Good point. Yes, indeed. Alhamdulillah. But yeah, no, Nasrat is a dude who I kind of knew was like a low key beast for a while, and I just don't think that had been getting a lot of the credit that he deserved off of his previous performances. He's just kind of one of those dudes that was getting really nice wins and not getting recognized for it. And then on the other side, I thought that Ribovics, while it was a great fight with Zellhuber at Noche, I thought that people were kind of putting a little bit too much emphasis and praise on that fight as far as like what that was going to put into any other fights coming forward. Like, I didn't think that it was like, oh, this is the fight that's going to show you how this guy is going to be, in every other fight, and that's just what you're going to have to deal with if you fight him. I was like, no, there's going to be other guys that are going to fight a little bit differently than Zellhuber did, that are going to be able to navigate this style a little bit better. In comes Nasrat Haqparast. So I think this worked out really well.
Yeah, again, this is another one where you got to just trust your boys. Nasrat, I've told the story before. When I first saw him, I was sick as a whatever, and he put on a striking clinic that actually made me stop vomiting. I actually had to watch the TV. Like, I was like, holy shit, this dude's actually good. And it just shows, once again, do your due diligence, watch the fights. You'll pick up the patterns of what a good fucking fighter can do. And then, not to say that Esteban isn't a good opponent either. Like I said, I knew this was going to a war. That just shows how, fearful I was that Esteban, he might be able to do something. I was very worried that if he caught something, which he even did, a knee to the cheekbone for Esteban to
Hell
Nasrat was
yeah.
nasty. The fact Nasrat ate that, it probably broke his cheekbone. It was cut instantly. It was
Oh yeah.
swollen. But he fought through it. And I also want to know, I know we love to throw the merchant tap term around, but like, dude, if there is a hook merchant or spam merchant, Esteban threw 436 strikes according to the books. This dude throws so many fucking strikes. And I know he didn't land, more than 50%, 30%, whatever the hell number is. But Nasrat was on his fucking defense this fight. Like he actually was I didn't when you talk about when you the ceiling of fighters, this is the one that I maybe underestimated, excuse me. I don't maybe think that I thought Nasrat was going to look as good as he did right here. Ever in my life, the last fight that I thought it was solidified in my mind, oh, he's just a boxer. Like he's straight up just a boxer. And he is. He can shoot some takedowns, but the boxing is at a status that is pretty damn elite right now. Like, come on. Like, I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One note when you were talking about the volume of Rebovic's, that was really what I thought was the definitive defining point of this fight was that Rebovic's volume versus the power of Haqparast and the accuracy of Haqparast as well. So it's like I think that's really what it came down to is the power and the accuracy of Haqparast and the volume of Rebovic's. I was glad that the judges acknowledged the importance of the power over the volume striking because I mean, look, when it came to the end of the fight, you talked about the knee, which landed, which was fantastic. I mean, it was a beautiful knee, opened up the cheek, as he said. It visually, it looked really bad. So like you see all of the volume that Rebovix is putting into this fight, and then that level of damage at the end. I was a little bit scared, and that's why it's like, the split decision does make sense. But I'm glad that the judging ended up the way that it was because the accuracy and the power that Haqparast has is what is setting him apart when it comes to his striking and why I had that low-key beast label on him to begin with. And he's been doing it for quite a while. So it's about time. And we talk about, putting respect on some of these guys' names. This is a dude that you really should. There are going to be fighters who are going to approach a fight a little bit differently. I think that this was a good test for those elements of his skill set when it comes to what Rebovix was bringing to the fight. But it's going to be different in different fights, of course, but he has a great mastery of the things that he does well. And I'm glad that the judges acknowledged that.
Well, I actually think the judging, if you want to talk about it, the reason I didn't think that Haqparast was gonna lose because he was convincingly winning in my mind. But if you look at the judging for how they scored Hyder and Gomi, I thought Gomi did, he was landing the bigger shots and he was putting the power on Hyder, but Hyder was able to obviously not fucking feel it. But in this one, I thought Rebovix was the one pushing the pace, and I thought he was. I'm glad that one judge acknowledged it and gave the fight to him or whatever. But with that in mind of how they gave it to Hyder, it was interesting to note that one judge gave it to Rebovix because of the same thing. He's just pushing the pace, he's putting the shots on him. Whether he's getting big shots, he's eating them. He had a busted lip like right away. He ate it and just went forward, and I'm grateful for it. Not gonna lie. Shout out Haqparast though. This dude, low key, like you said, low key beast. Rebovix, still one of my favorites. The Argentinian flag is for you, buddy. Like you are the fucking man for what you did, Terrence McKinney. Holy shit.
Oh yeah, and he is going to continue to advance and do great things, like you said. This is a great loss to take. These are if you're going to lose, this is the type of loss that you want to take after a war where really in the eyes of the fans, you really didn't lose much of anything, at least in my estimation. You went up against a guy who's extremely tough and very proficient in the skills that he brings to the table. Like this was a win on both sides as far as I was concerned. So a really great fight. Enjoyed this one a lot.
I want to say two things. The first thing is that Eileen Perez decided to go to karate combat to support the Brazilian fighting nerds over her fucking partner, the Argentinian. That's okay.
It's a good point.
Good to know. Good to know. The second one is, what about Rebovic's hairstyle? Do you like the mullet power? That's like the South American mullet where it's like, he's kind of got like the emo in the front,
Yeah, I don't know if I really acknowledged it too much. I don't I'm not opposed to it, I suppose. I think he rocks it pretty well.
Yeah,
You
it was
know,
more Diego Lopez style. It was kind of like early Diego Lopez kind of.
right? Yeah, baby Diego. Not as grown in. Yeah, I think that I think that there's some merit to that. Why not?
It
If
works
if it's
for him
work,
for sure.
that's really what it comes down to. It's very case by case when it comes to that kind of stuff. But what I was talking about with Ricky Simone, it's like I didn't think that the blonde was working for him. It turned out to work out really, really well. So maybe Rebovix goes blonde next time. I don't know. I'm just saying, blonde seems to be back in vogue.
Hey, listen, I don't dislike it. Rebovix, you are a winner in my book. You're one of these dudes that's gonna go to war every time. Split decisions are gonna happen. Sometimes you're gonna and even going back to the last fight, if it evens it out, I don't think that you beat Zellhuber, if I'm gonna be honest. I think the judges maybe got away with that one. So this one evens it out, and I thought you put on a great performance once again. So you're just a
Yeah,
really fucking good fighter. I
and
really
there
like this dude.
and we talk about narratives constantly in this sport. And if you have a reputation as a guy that I need to watch no matter what the outcome is, you're doing yourself a world of good. So, I mean,
Hell yeah.
keep doing that. You're going to be just fine. People are going to want to tune in. I know that I will. And that's all you got to do. You'll get booked no matter what the case is.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, coming off of the potential fight of the night into the co-main event, Cody Brundage versus Julian Marquez. How is it that Cody Brundage cannot just have a normal fight? Why is every single fight that Cody Brundage in just strange in some way?
Yeah, he's just one of those meme guys, dude. I don't know if you noticed, and I'll point it out. We talked about his Oscar performance in his last fight. I don't know if you saw the one that he did this time where when he was crying like at the mic kind of deal. Like Jesus, like,
He was getting a little emotional. I don't get on people for that though.
no,
I'm
it's just
okay with
another
that.
Oscar performance that I thought was funny to note.
Well, see, I don't buy that line of thinking when it comes to the Abdul Razan Al Hassak fight,
No,
though.
but it's funny though.
You know what? Good point. I'll give you that
Exactly.
one.
Yeah. But this one is also funny because boy, these goofballs, like this is another Cutalaba situation where these dudes just come out here and they look like barroom drunk dads. Like this one out of all the drunken dad fights, this one here, and I actually can tell you probably why they were the co-main event. They put up a stat and it was like these dudes combined have less than 3 minutes, in the cage or whatever. Not combined, but like whatever the fucking stat is. But that's probably why they were the co-main event. I am surprised that it actually did end in a finish. 15 seconds from it, I didn't think maybe it was going to happen. The ref probably should have stepped in a little bit. He kind of made him look a little goofy. I don't know. Cody Brundage, the one winning here. That's really just hard for my soul. I don't know, man.
It's
I've bet on
just
this dude before too, and
Well, it's just strange. I mean, again, this is an odd fight, like all Cody Brundage fights generally are. Marquez was a little slow to start. Brundage landed a couple of decent hands, then ends up trying this sideways head and arm choke attempt, which was sort of interesting. I mean, Dom was trying to say, "Oh, there's a choke there." It was like it seemed very off to the side to actually create the pressure that you'd need to get a submission, but that was just the precursor to the real weirdness. Uh, so I'll just talk through basically how this fight ended for anybody who didn't see it. Marquez lands and has Cody hurt, right? So he lands a good shot. Cody's hurt off of the shot. His mouthpiece comes out. Marquez goes for a standing guillotine, but does not finish it, keeps laying on the shot. Cody starts to return some defensive fire. Now both mouthpieces are out as they continue to wail on each other. Mark Smith does not step in at that point, which is like, okay, but he's looking for a time to step in because now both fighters are without their mouthpieces. They get off of the cage where they had been. They'd kind of been up against the cage. That's where Marquez had that standing guillotine, which I really was kind of felt absurd that he wasn't able to finish that because he had that pretty dead to rights, it seemed. But anyway, he abandoned it. They get off of the cage where they'd been. Smith pauses the action for the mouthpieces to go back in. Then Brundage somehow reverses course and knocks out Marquez. It was just very strange because, like you said, 15 seconds before that, he was about to be finished.
yeah, it's actually pretty impressive how Cody Brundage. Well, actually, let me note this. Actually, this is more important. Cody Brundage had a hair transplant.
Ah.
I don't know if you noticed it. You can see the literal, like, anyway,
Okay.
his striking to get wobbled by Julian Marquez and to still be confident to stand with him. I mean, listen, shout out him for doing it, but like, bro, not everybody's Julian Marquez. You're gonna get. I mean, listen, bro, I'm surprised. I know, Bo Nickel wanted to, wrestle with you, but he probably would have some success on you in the striking if this is what it still looks like. Because Cody Brundage striking, I mean, again, meaty hooks is like all this dude can throw. And like it's funny too because he has like this bounce to him and he kind of like evades, like he's like really doing something. And then when he throws strikes, it's just like the wildest hooks you've ever seen. So the fact that he got the knockout is pretty impressive to say from a dude that is very bad at striking. But yes, it was weird with the mouthpieces. I probably would have made the bad call because I was sitting there saying like, "Oh, mouthpieces out, mouthpieces. You might as well stay. Like, go ahead, stop." Like, I thought I saw the moment to stop it, but they were still striking by the time Mark Smith got in there. So it was, but mouthpieces, bro, that's dangerous. I don't know. I don't play about the teeth stuff. Like, bro, get in there, get the mouthpieces. Like, fuck, like,
Yeah, I feel you on that. I mean, I thought that it worked out like about as good as it could have
yeah,
under the circumstances. Cause yeah, they were really in there pretty deep by the time, like at before he stepped in. I think that the break was about as good as you were going to get because both of them were really like hunting for the finish at that point. So it was like, you got to pick a spot somewhere, I guess.
yeah. Cody Brundage, dude, I don't even know, like, you're it's funny to watch people who are just like not doing great things and they somehow just come away with like an impressive finish. It's like, man, maybe they are good. Maybe they're just because you have Dricus as a champion. It's like he does the wrong things, but it works. It's like maybe he is good. Maybe we're just not seeing it. Cody Brundage 11-6. Maybe it don't tell the whole story.
I'm telling you, man, this could be very well it. And I was gonna say, like, you add this to the very long and storied list of Cody Brundage highlights now. So yeah, perhaps there is perhaps there's like how like they got the Greek gods or whatever, and like Loki is kind of the god of mischief. Like maybe there's an MMA Loki out there
Yeah.
that's watching over Cody Brundage in some capacity here because no matter what, win or lose, it's always a story when it comes to a Cody Brundage fight. It's never just go in, fight, somebody gets their hand raised or somebody gets knocked out or finished or whatever. There's always more to the equation.
You know what I think after seeing this? Because hey, listen, I wouldn't have brought it up until Cutelaba said so. He said any weight, light, heavyweight, middleweight. He said heavyweight, dude. Let's go. Fuck it.
Oh,
Get in here, Cutelaba. Let's go.
that would be a fucking epic matchup right
At
there.
middleweight too would be fucking funny. I would love to see it.
Oh my god, yeah. Weaponized autism versus the mischief of Brundage. Yeah,
Yeah,
all kinds of fireworks going on in that potential matchup. So I am certainly here for it.
love it, man.
All right. Well, let's finish this thing off with the main event: Manel Kape versus Asu Almabayev. It was a good fight up until some wacky hijinks, which were not the fun kind in this one yet again. What'd you think?
I think whenever the saying like your luck runs out. Like I think this is the perfect example of my luck not running out. I before the fight, I wasn't very confident, but like I went for the Manel KO because I don't know. It was short notice, 5 rounds. It's a striker versus a wrestler, whatever you want to say. I did not expect, and I actually will say this too. I was basing a lot on this fight. I'm like, okay, no way is Manel gonna get another fluky eye poke. Like he just got a fluky eye poke finish. Like no way he's gonna like. I mean, come on, let's be real. And then the fact that he comes in here and swipes Asu like 15 fucking times in the eye, it was pretty impressive. Not only did he not get a single warning, um, actually he might have got the first one, but I think actually what I know you'll go into this one, but I want to bring it up. When the okay, so Manel punched. Okay, so he swiped and then punched. They go back to the commentary. They're like, clean punch, go on, go on. They go back to the fight. And then after the round, they show the replay, and it's like a double
Oh,
swipe, and it's like, dude, it's nasty work for Manel. And if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying to win. I've heard it before. Manel is one of those dudes where, listen, you're in a fight. If you get poked in the eye, brother, you poke him back. Like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, fuck it. Like, kick him in the dick if you got to. At this point, he cries about it, but he's gonna poke you in the eye. You got to know this by now. He's gonna do everything in his power to get the upper hand, whether that means cheating, whether that means doing it by the books. That's in his wheelhouse.
I
He's
want you to keep a point in exactly what you just said, because I have something that I want to read in a little bit here. I'll come back to that in just a second, but that point that you just made will lead right into that. So, I mean, I'll break this down basically the same way that we did with last week with Henry Cejudo's eye poke situation, basically before the eye poke and then the poke situations. Coming into this fight, I was concerned that Almabayev might not be ready for this big a test at this stage in his career. Of course, Almabayev was not the intended opponent for Manel Kape in this fight. Coming in on short notice, I thought that this was a pretty big jump. I am a fan of Asuma Almabayev. I have liked what I've seen from him in the past, but I did acknowledge that Manel Kape was a level of competition that I don't think that he was necessarily prepared for. And I do believe that that concern proved warranted, even regardless of the eye pokes. I think that his body language, I don't remember it in previous fights, how he carried himself, but he seemed a little out of his element and willing to be led as opposed to leading the action. And that's an extremely dangerous position to put yourself in against Manel Kape, who is extremely unpredictable and unorthodox. And like you said, very willing to do whatever it takes to win a fight, so to speak. So that's basically the criticism of Almabayev prior to the eye poke stuff. Kape himself was doing all the things that he normally does, very active, very fast. He's super fast guy. Again, another one of these fighters that it reminds me of when two cats are fighting and it's just like them just doing one of these, they're kind of like
Yeah.
going all over the place. Like Manel Kape is definitely one of those guys, extremely fast. John Anik was saying, it's hard to keep up with him visually. I think that that's pretty accurate. So that's all when it comes to the fight itself. But as for the pokes, you have to keep in mind when it comes to Almabayev that his eye was already slightly compromised from a legal strike in round one. That was why he had that little bit of blood right in the corner of his eye there. It wasn't the eye itself, but it was, right next to the eye. And I'm sure that the eye area was not feeling too great. That was off of a legal strike, but I'm just saying that keep it in context, right? Round two, Kape paws across Almabayev's face for poke number one. The action is stopped, as you said. The review official, there is a person who is cage side, a member of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, is sitting there with the tape in hand. He watches that tape, at least in theory, and says it's a legal strike. We all saw the replay. What the fuck? This is absurd to me. This was a commission fumble, and I have an entire video on this channel, on the Yama channel, about the replay and how Nevada, specifically NSAC, has a replay problem. That they do not use the replay system. We brought the replay system into MMA to be used effectively for situations exactly like this and several other ones that they have dropped the ball on. Yet another time, Nevada is dropping the ball when it comes to the use and implementation of the replay system. I thought that this was an atrocious look for the commission. So that's part number one. I'll let you go in just a second.
No,
Here,
no,
but,
I didn't have anything to say.
oh, okay, fair enough. Part two of this, of course, then his action resumes after the scrape we just talked about, and we see that it wasn't only an eye scrape, but also he got, I don't know if you noticed this, he got a cheeky little Michael Chandler finger in the mouth there as well. Did you see
No,
that part of it?
I
Yeah.
did not.
Oh yeah. So Manel Kape not only gets the swipe across the eyes, but just before it, not full on fish hooking, but just a little finger to the side of the mouth. But okay, again, fight game, we'll let it slide, right? Round three starts. Almabayev gets double swiped. No stop at all this time. This was
he calls timeout, actually.
Yeah, he himself calls time. Good point. He's like, hey guys, I got poked in the eye again. You didn't, maybe you want to make up for your mistakes in the first eye poke. No mistake make up on this time. no, no timeout had. I think that Beltran, because of the review official, was thinking that he was, crying wolf a little bit over here. So, I mean, I'm not going to put it all on Beltran. What I say here is that this was a group effort when it comes to the commission failing this fight. This is the second main event in a row that has been ended due to eye poke complications now. When is this going to stop, and what are we going to do about it? And then if you have any thoughts, you can say them, but I have something that I wanted to
I have
read off
one.
here. Yeah,
I
please go
was
ahead.
gonna say, wouldn't it be nice if the refs did have earpieces so they could be like, "Hey, it actually was an eye poke, bro."
But what difference would it make if the review official is not going to call it that?
I can't tell you all the answers, man. I just know that the same thing happened in Manel's last fight where he poked somebody in the eye by doing that, where he'll punch, open his hand, and then swipe. And then, we have somebody who's like, dude, please stop, please time
Yeah.
out. Like, I can't see. And then they get finished. And shout out to Asu. I mean, he turned into a track star. I'll tell you that. He decided,
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to fucking run. Like, I mean, I'm not just going to get punched in the head. Bruno Silva, shout out him for getting punched in the head. But like, Asu was like, oh, no, that shit hurts, brother. My eyes I'm blinded.
I mean,
And then,
the parallels are very close between the Henry situation and this,
yeah, yeah, and so it's pretty crazy. The finish was a little premature, but in my opinion, bro was beelining and just running. Like, I mean, we've seen it before, and we've questioned, what are you doing? And even when he was running away, I'm actually looking at you can see the picture right there. Manella's open hand slapping his face, like on the
Yeah.
bottom right. So it's just crazy to think about. Like, when did the ref decide to? Who was the ref actually? By the way, for this,
It was Beltran.
he did both. He
Yeah,
did
yeah,
this same. Okay, okay. Well,
yeah.
brother needs to fucking get some glasses.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that this was a group effort when it came to the failure of
I
this
feel you.
fight, because it started off with the review official. I think that Beltran is the type of referee that will get it in his mind if because I give Beltran a little bit of leeway on this one specifically. Beltran has had his own things here and there or whatever. No referee is perfect, and I always try to preface everything with that. I give a lot of leeway to referees. It's a tough job. It's a very thankless job. All that being said, I think Beltran is the type of referee that prides himself on being a no nonsense guy. Keith Peterson is called no nonsense. Beltran is actually no nonsense. He's not playing any of this shit when it comes to guys trying to game the system. So I think that because the review official just willy-nilly said, nope, legal strike, he had it in his mind, okay, if this guy's trying to pull this bullshit with these, things that look like they're strikes, but, or look like pokes, but they're not actually pokes, whatever, I'm not playing that. Fight on, that kind of thing. I think that it was like he was mirroring what he got from the review official. So, one thing begets the other, and it just, none of it was good.
I don't think I disagree, but I don't agree that Mike Beltran isn't to blame in this, because at the end of the day, the ref is there to protect the fighters. And, we don't need a review system to know that Asu Almabayev is getting poked in the eyes. Like, I know I'm watching it on a fucking, like, if the cameraman can see it, like, come on, Mike, like, you're even closer than him. And I know
It's angles.
angles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I get it. And maybe Manel is just the king of playing angles. Maybe he knows if the ref's on that side, I can poke him in the eye with this hand. Like, I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
not.
I hear what you're saying though, and I do think that you're not wrong in that line of thinking. That is the job of the referee. So if the buck stops here, kind of thing, right? I guess it does
True.
make sense. So okay, I did want to read this though, and this goes back to that point you brought up earlier, where you were basically saying, eye for an eye, no pun intended. But it's like, if you're gonna poke, I'm gonna poke. This is a post that was written by MMA Outsiders. Shout out to them. I follow them on Facebook, I believe. So yeah, I screenshotted this so I didn't lose it. But this is what MMA Outsiders had to say about this type of situation. They have a graphic here that says the last two UFC main events in a row were ended with eye pokes causing a loss. And the post says, this may sound wrong, but if I were a coach and my guy gets poked, my advice is to go out there and give him one back. Make it 1-for-1. You're not going to get penalized anyway. Just pretend it's an accident. Let's be real. At this point, fighters use open hand techniques on purpose. It provides a large advantage, and they're rarely penalized for the pokes. The victims of eye pokes are rarely end up winning. Unless either the pride style gloves are used or points are taken for every poke, more fighters will start leaning on this technique. And then he talks a little bit about like the statistics and what those statistics might be, wanting to see what the actual numbers are there. So I don't, you can cut it off at like what his like
Yeah.
remedies were, if going back to the pride gloves, any of that. But I do think the reason I wanted to read that is I think that there is a good point being made here is that if there is not something, and I'm not saying that his, instantly go for a point deduction is the right thing. I was just on Fight Show the other day. Shout out to Checkmate and all those guys. Had a good time on Fight Show talking to Bill Bookwalter, a former UFC referee. He was saying, you don't want a sport where instantly taking points is the norm. It's going to make the sport worse. I tend to agree with that line of thinking. I want the sport to be as no holds barred as possible. But if you're going to have rules at all, and there's no remedy that we have offered for this problem, then what is the what's to say that using that exact strategy that MMA Outsiders just outlined is not something that could very well be effective? Go out there and just poke the fucking guy. You're not gonna
Well,
get a deduction.
I actually want to go back to 2 weeks ago. There was a fight on the prelims between Elijah Smith and Vince Morales.
Yes.
Elijah Smith got kicked right in the dick really hard. Comes back, pokes Vince Morales in the eye. Vince Morales says, "Okay, we're even," and then they go back to fighting. And not only is it something that I accepted, it's like, oh, okay, boom, they're cool with it. They're back to it. Now no illegal stuff is going on in my mind. Okay, they got it out the way. Now they know they're gonna get a receipt if they do some stuff, whatever you want to call it or whatever. I'm not opposed to it. Listen, me and Toby, maybe it's Nav. Nav and me always talk about you get 2 cage grabs, you get a dick kick, you get an eye poke each match. They're not going to give you a warning until it's excessive. So go
Well,
ahead and do what you got to do.
and see, and so I'm with the line of thinking and like where your head's at, but my issue with that is that it does not account for the potential severity of the damage that's actually caused. Because some of the times you're going to get, like a glancing shot to the eye. Sometimes you're going to get what Henry got, and I mean, you can talk about the merits of what Henry did and how he handled all that situation and why he handled it the way he did, but the image doesn't lie. I mean, he's got a chunk of his eye missing, talking about the double vision and the corneal abrasion, all this kind of stuff, whatever. I mean, like, it looked pretty bad to me anyway. So my point is that, like, yeah, there is some gamesmanship potentially in there that you can be like, oh, well, you just chalk it up to everybody's getting warnings, go eye for an eye and then get back to business. But it just doesn't seem like a definitive, like, end to a problem. And now, especially too, with the UFC going back to the old gloves, the newer gloves were supposed to try to help with that. They did not. The old gloves certainly weren't helping with that either, obviously. And we're back to those. People don't necessarily want the pride gloves. It makes the hand a little bit more restrictive. I mean, it just doesn't seem like there's a good answer to this problem. And I think that in and of itself is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to note once again, the new gloves are the old gloves, and they are back forever. And now Manel has free reign to do whatever he wants with his fingers. He can move them all around. He can poke you wherever. He can touch you wherever if that's what you want to hear. And I just don't know.
And
Manel
all,
is one of those dudes that it does seem like he will take that advantage if he has it. So and he has. So
and take that line of thinking down the road a little bit. Manel Kape is now getting himself into the title equation here. I mean, they were talking about how potentially he could have a title shot waiting for him in his next fight. I mean, is this how you want a a championship fight to end? I mean, like, if he's been doing this all the way up to this point, what's to say that he doesn't go out there, have a similar situation with Pantoja, and now a belt change situation happens, and then we have to wait for them to run it back or do whatever they're going to do about that, and we all just have to be okay with it.
yeah, it is a concern, but like, I mean, sure, come on, 3 eye poke finishes in a row. Like, come on, let's play the stats game here. He's gonna get 2 in his career at max, and this is it.
Dude, I don't want to play the odds. I mean, and even still, if we're talking about a specific situation with Kape, I'm talking about in a macro scale. I'm talking about
I
in a
hear you.
broad scale. It's like, yeah, Kape is one purveyor of this, but I mean, if you let it go and run rampant, then I mean, then you got guys on the Contender Series doing this shit, coming into the organization, just knowing that, oh, you get the one eye poke, so make it count.
Yeah, I mean, but if you really think, the old saying, lead by example, the greatest fighter in the UFC is a lead example of what you do with your fingers if
You're
you want to
spitting
win fights.
facts,
So
absolute facts. Yeah. So I don't think that we're going to come to any kind of grand conclusion on this one right now. As far as the fight went, this is again, I think it echoes the Cejudo and Song fight in a lot of ways, in the sense that, do I think that Almabayev was going to win that fight? Probably not. Same with Henry. I mean, the parallels are definitely apparent there. It just sucks that it has to end with this as the outcome, and all of the like, I think that also at the end of the day is part of why this upsets me too, is that, like, I want these fighters to go out there and get clean wins so that this is not the conversation. We should be
true,
talking about how Manel Kape is a fucking beast and is about to go out there and snatch a belt off of anybody in front of him. That should be the conversation. It shouldn't be, wow, Manel Kape might go out there and fucking get himself a sneaky eye poke on a champion. Like, the narrative sucks. I don't like the
true.
narrative.
I hear you.
So
I get it. It's a problem that we don't have a solution to right now, and we probably aren't going to get one for a while, and maybe never. I mean, I don't know, until we see a case where somebody gets seriously penalized and they take a hard point, and everybody's watching, and it's in like a big fight. Then I don't know. But as of right now, it's going to be interesting.
I think what they need to do, bring in goggles, bro.
Have
Fighters
them
with
pay for
goggles.
LASIK.
There, yeah, there you go too. That could be it. You get poked in the eye, free LASIK right afterwards.
No, no, the opponent who poked pays
Oh,
for it.
I like that. I like, yes. Dock the purse for the price of the LASIK. I think that's a good one. All
I
right, so
mean,
maybe we did
yeah,
come up with a solution.
I don't disagree. Now that I say it out loud, I'm honestly not opposed to it.
Fair enough. Well, we'll see what ends up happening with eye pokes and all this kind of stuff in the future. But that, in a nutshell, was UFC Fight Night, Kape versus Almabayev. After having discussed it, Chase, what are your overall impressions of this card?
Listen, I had a good time and I can't wait for these next fights because, like I said, every Saturday that there's fights, it is a good fucking time. And this one was a good night of fights. And we're just rolling on to the next one. I hate to say that it's not a filler card, but it's one of those cards that is just rolling through the punches that I'm just going to remember some fights and some moments. But a UFC Fight Night Cap and Almabayev, like it's just going down in the books. Like I watched it, I was there for it, but
Oh
I
yeah,
ain't never coming back to chill on the, unless it's Rebovix and Nazareth. I'll probably show my dad that fight.
yeah, and I am perfectly fine with cards like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as we talked about a little bit earlier in this stream, if people are fighting, I'm happy. This is how I want to spend my Saturdays, is watching fights. So
Yeah,
if this is what you got for me, yeah, I thought this was perfectly fine. I had no problems with it.
hell yeah, I loved it.
All right. Well, next weekend here, this upcoming weekend, that is, we've got a pretty big pay-per-view on our hands. This is UFC 313, Pereira versus Ankalaev. Finally, Ankalaev getting his shot at Alex Pereira. I guess we can go through a couple of these fights. What's your thoughts on this main event?
I'll keep it short and sweet. Ankalaev is going to be doing this during Ramadan. He's going to be extra drained. Alex Pereira is going to be a powerful striker as he always is, and he's going to knock him. I think it's going to be that easy. And I'm not trying to, make it just a headline kind of thing. Like I just genuinely believe with the extra drainage, with the hydration factor, Ankalaev is probably just cooked. I don't know.
Well, am I completely mistaken? I don't think I am. Wouldn't Pereira also be drained, as he too is a Muslim?
I do not believe nobody's been saying that. Nobody's been questioning, like, oh my God, two fighters during Ramadan. Like, I would assume that it's just Ankalaev during Ramadan.
Maybe that's a meme. I don't know. I had thought that I had read somewhere that Alex Pereira was a practicing Muslim as well. But maybe, like I said, that maybe I was mistaken on that. But
Okay.
either way, I shout out to Ankalaev and potentially Pereira if he is a practicing Muslim. But either way, shout out to Ankalaev for stepping up during Ramadan. We hear time and time again these Muslim fighters who have to schedule everything around Ramadan, and it does get a little bit. It becomes not, I don't know, I wouldn't say annoying is not the right word, but it's like it gets a little like picky choosy, and it kind of that maybe rubs some people the wrong way a little bit. So
Mhm.
Ankalaev not waiting any longer after already having to have waiting through the Khalil Roundtree fight. I give him a lot of credit. He's been knocking on this door for forever, it feels like. I mean, God, one draw with Jan Blachowicz, and years and years, you're feeling the repercussions. But shout out to him. He has navigated all of that, continued to win. Definitely deserves this shot. That being said, we have talked time and time again, and I really hope that people out there that like maybe don't follow as closely as like the hardcore fans do, like I hope that they realize that like when people are saying Ankalaev, oh, he's the grappler that we need, he's the takedown guy that we need to get Pereira in the position that it's going to need to be to win the fight. It's like he is not that great when it comes to his wrestling. It's not the numbers. The numbers don't tell the story that you want to see when it comes to the opposition that Pereira is going to need for that to be the deciding factor here. We saw it plain as day. Go back to the last Yama episode, or not the last one, but the one after the Ankalaev and Rakic fight. I was screaming my head off about this very subject. I'm like, if you think that this level of wrestling and minor grappling is going to be the thing that's going to take out Alex Pereira, I really think that there's a rude awakening coming for a lot of people on this.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. Everybody claims that Ankalaev is a grappler, and it's just not true. Like he just does not do that much grappling. If you watch every fight that he's been in, he just walks in there and he's got a solid 1-2 and a meaty hook that he can throw. And Alex is fast, guys. Like I don't know if you guys remember how fast Alex is. Not only is he able to just throw hooks just at will, but his switch kicks that he showed at the beginning of the round with Yuri, where he fucking flatlined him, like that was one of the quicker kicks that he set up that he just eviscerated Yuri with it. If he's able to set something like that up against Ankalaev, like, dude, Ankalaev is not a fast striker. He's more of a brute striker. So Alex being kind of this this lightning in a bottle. He's got power and speed and kicks, like the most deadly kicks in the division right now. It's just not looking good for Ankalaev.
Yeah, and not only the high kicks, but a lot of people say, and I am certainly one of them, that the sneakiest and one of, if not the greatest weapon that Pereira has, obviously the hand striking is his bread and butter, but his low kicks, his kicks to the inside leg kicks, his outside leg kicks. I mean, like the leg kicks are a major factor in his immobilization of his opponents. And Ankalaev, who is not necessarily a super fast guy to begin with, takes a couple of those, slow him down a little bit more, and you can't grapple what you can't get your hands on. So
exactly.
But I do want to at least acknowledge the other side of the equation in this fight. For two things anyway. One, if things go to plan, I should have an edited version of a stream I did last week talking about the Alex Pereira multiple curses that he may or may not be dealing with coming into this fight. Of course, the EA UFC game cover, which watch the video if you want all the details on that. But Israel Adesanya is predicting him to win. Put whatever stock you want to put into that as far as your superstitions go. But the other thing that I think has a little bit more credence to it, and I'm just putting it out here as a hedge more than anything else, but I think it at least deserves to be said, is that I'm sure that you heard just, I believe today or yesterday, they were talking about Pereira saying that he wanted to wager like $200,000 on this fight for charity or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And so that in and of itself is whatever. The thing that I noticed in there is that Pereira did say, I can win the fight or I can lose the fight, but I do want the kids to benefit, or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. I don't like, especially from champions, people coming into fights saying, hey, it could go one way, it could go the other way. We're just going to have to see. So I'm just putting that out there as you take it for whatever you think that is worth. I'm not saying it's going to be a major factor. I'm certainly still picking Alex to win this fight. I just for the sake of comprehensiveness, I wanted to at least mention that.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good thing to know.
And do you have any take any stock in any of that?
Not as of right now, but I'll probably forget about it too. Yeah, no, I think I'm set on Ankalaev getting knocked.
Okay.
I could just, I just when I envision him, one, Jan tore him up with the legs. And then not only did he tear him up with the legs, but when you're watching him react to the leg kicks, his hands drop. He's just like he's like out of his element. I can just see Alex just uppercut, left hook, right hook, any dude, flying knee. I don't care what it is, Alex. You're gonna decimate this dude.
Yeah, and that was also one of the things about the Rakic fight that kind of bothered me is that, like, if you thought that Rakic was going to be a good approximation of what you're gonna get in this fight, like, in like if like a comparison to Alex Pereira, then you were sorely mistaken in that fight. Like Rakic really didn't show up to that fight in a way that was very effective. Like I don't think he was navigating that fight very well. So when it comes to this fight, I mean, if all things are equal, if Alex is healthy and everything is as it should be in the universe, I just think that pound for pound, skill for skill, it seems like a pretty clear dunk to me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is one of the modern day greats. I mean, you guys, if you want to keep denying greatness, you can. But at 12-2, he's gonna have what? Is that 3 defenses, 4 defenses after
4, I
this?
believe now.
Yeah. So, yeah, 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 yeah.
I
He's a
mean,
beast.
and the GOAT list conversation just continues to intensify. And I've been saying it for a while. We've talked about it on this show before. We don't need to go into it right now, but I'm just saying that, the amount of defenses, the fact that he may or may not go up to heavyweight at some point, try his luck there. I mean, there's, you see generational talent. And until something shows me otherwise, is he knockout aside? I see it in Alex Pereira.
100%.
Well, moving on to a fight that is a little bit more interesting to me as far as like the perception of it goes. Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. Of course, we know that Justin Gaethje was supposed to fight Dan Hooker. That fight fell through. Rafael Fiziev comes in. This is the rematch between these two gentlemen. I was very surprised that Fiziev is coming in as a slight favorite on this one. We talked about it a little bit in the Discord, but I'm not really understanding where the logic is in this.
I think my best assumption that I just came up with just now, Fiziev will probably win with how the judges are being. He will probably win in the matchup because he may not get split open as much as he did. That was probably a big reason why the judging gave it to Justin in the first one, is that there was a lot of blood. Fiziev took a lot of strikes. But I've heard a lot of people say Fiziev should have won that fight, and I'm not going to disagree. It was pretty damn close, but
I'd have to rewatch that one.
I don't know. I mean, Justin coming off a knockout, Fiziev coming off, they're both coming off of layoff. So it's been a really long time for us. So ring rust, it's going to be a slow fight probably. It may not be the fight we expect, boys and girls, but with how the judging's been, Azerbaijan, has that always been for Fiziev? Oh God, I'm so out of the loop.
I believe so. I think so.
Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take Fiziev in the rematch, I think.
All right. I mean, fair. I think that Justin Gaethje, having this as his retirement fight, is wanting to go out with something to prove. I would suspect, at least. I think that he's going to bring the level of intensity that he always brings to his fight to this fight. In the first fight, as I said, I'd have to rewatch it to see how close it was. At least in the hazy recollection that I have after watching 8 million fights as we do, I remember thinking that I thought it was pretty definitive for Justin in that first fight, but a rewatch might sway me a different way. That being said, I am tentatively going to go with Gaethje on this one. As like I said, I think that he's going to want to go out with a bang when it comes to his retirement. I don't think that he's going to be like overly shoot from the hip. I think that this was one of the fights that actually, like their first fight rather, is one of the fights where you saw him being a little bit more plotting as opposed to how he was in the past, where he was really like a run and gun guy. I'd like to believe that he still has all of the elements that he would need in place in order to win this fight. Was he the favorite versus Dan Hooker?
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, that would be. I'd like to see what the numbers were on that one too, just to see if people are thinking like maybe it's just his time, kind of thing, and that's sort of what they're basing this on. Fiziev, like you said, the ring rust situation. I don't necessarily put a ton of stock into that, but he just has been gone for a while. I need a primer on the like what to expect from him in a general sense, aside from the last fight with Gaethje. So, yeah, I'm going with my gut mostly on this one, and my gut is telling me Justin, but I'll probably still have a parlay with Fiziev on it.
Fiziev being a Muay Thai guy, I think makes it very interesting as well. He'll probably come out here with a very, very heavy Muay Thai style. You know, he trains with Shevchenko, Tiger Muay Thai, so they got the championship DNA around them. Fiziev is still trying to reach greatness. He's 31. I, I think this is gonna be for Fiziev. Either if it, whether it ends in a finish for Fiziev. I think if the judges go to a split unanimous, I think they got to give it to Fiziev because he's the one moving on in the sport. So
Yeah, I mean that is a good point. Like to believe that that wouldn't factor into the judging, but
it always does, though. It always does, though.
exactly. It's like, as much as I want to be a purist and a mark for this sport, the sport proves me wrong time and time again when it comes to that stuff. So yeah, I guess logic is made in that assessment. Fair enough. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. I like this fight though as the replacement for Hooker though. I thought there were a lot of names that were being thrown around for Justin Gaethje, and I think that that's a good one to settle on.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, farther down, we got Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I like this fight. I think that Turner is a dude who he had a lot going for him earlier on in his career and has hit an odd skid. The fight with Dan Hooker was a great one. I really enjoyed that fight, but it wasn't necessarily like the greatest performance of all time there. It showed that he had weaknesses, I would say. And then, of course, we saw what happened with Renato Moicano. So Turner has some ground to make up, I would say, in this fight.
Yeah, I think Jalen Turner is one of those dudes that you originally see him and you're like, oh, 6'3", at lightweight. Okay. He's got striking, good. And then you watch him for, 3 fights now, and it's like, okay, so he's just a 6'3" guy with striking. He's never gonna adapt past that. And listen, when you're not the only 6'3" striker in lightweight, especially when a guy like Bahamondes is coming across, like it's gonna be tough. I don't know if it's gonna end in a finish, but Jalen Bahamondes is pretty fucking good, dude.
Yeah.
So if Moicano is able to beat you down, I know it was ground and pound, I know it was after a takedown, but if he's able to get you finished, I mean Bahamondes is going to be a tougher task, man. Shout out Chile.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Bahamondes looked really nice on the Noche card. This guy is definitely on the come up. And I think the biggest detriment to Turner, which is the note, as you said, a guy who doesn't really change his style very much. The issue that I see time and time again with him is that he's too methodical for his own good. He's too plotting. He's too strategic. He's almost in his head too much, it seems like, in fights sometimes. And I think that against a guy like Bahamondes, who is kind of a more in your face kind of dude, he's going to bring the fight to you. You're not going to be able to stand on the back foot, kind of circle out and continue to try to find the right shot with this guy. He's too fast for it. I think it's going to be a styles makes fights kind of situations, and I think that it's going to be a big problem for Turner in this one.
Yeah, I like Bahamondes in this one, especially with the line really close. I'm pretty confident that Bahamondes got this.
Yeah, I would agree on that one. We got the lone ladies fight of the evening: Amanda Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo. Um, People are questioning why this fight is on main card. I mean, Lemos is decent with her striking, but has come up short in a couple of them, I believe. So, is there more to this fight than people are giving it credit for?
Well, I think what's interesting is Lemos does have less losses than Lucindo, which is pretty impressive considering I feel like I've seen Lemos lose so many times. But she does have power in her hands. She is one of those. I'm trying to think of the stereotypical Brazilian knockout woman. Like that's,
Hmm.
she's one of those people that builds that stereotype. Lucindo also is on the side of that spectrum kind of deal. But Lemos has only lost to submission and then a unanimous decision to Wei Lee, but lost a submission to Andrade, and then she lost a submission to Jandiroba, which are pretty good opponents. If Lucindo is not gonna grapple and try to submit her and tries to stand with her, Lemos might pull something off. And I don't want to be the guy betting on Lemos, but if dude 37, holy shit. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, for women, I guess it's the age is maybe a little bit more negligible, but 37 still is getting up there.
Yeah, so I don't know. This one could be an upset, but then it would be one of those fights where people are like, "This is why we don't bet on women's MMA." And it's like, well, you
Yeah.
guys should have seen it coming. You're betting on the striker against the striker, and the person who's knocked out better competition or finished better competition. Like, I don't know. This one's interesting to me. I got to see how I feel during the week. Something's got to speak to me, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree completely on that. I think that there's maybe a sign from the stars that needs to come down for a definitive one way or another. This is the exact kind of fight that I'd probably make the judgment call on during the walks. I'll
Mhm.
be like, okay, who's looking better, who's looking like, who's speaking to me in the moment, kind of thing.
Yeah, if it shows up that Yasmin is like or whatever, 5-1 is a favorite or something, I'll throw it down. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, as of right now, at least on this book, pretty close. So I probably would just stay away from this fight
lot
personally.
lot of close lines on this card. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
For sure, definitely. But gun to head, I mean, I want to think that experience trumps the youth on this one personally. So, I feel like I go for dogs often, maybe a little bit to my detriment. So I'm not trying to say that take it as a definitive statement, but yeah, it's like you said, if they're going hand for hand, I think that Lemos should have some success there, but we'll see if Lucindo wants to try to take it to the ground.
True.
All right. King Green versus Mauricio Hoofy. A lot of discussion about this fight in the Discord. What are you thinking in this fight, sir?
I'm thinking the ESPN needs to get the fucking picture for Mauricio Hoofy.
Yeah,
Like, what
that
are
is
you
weird.
doing? I think this one is pretty easy though. Bobby Green not in the apex anymore. So he's not on the skid that he once was. Mauricio Hoofy's on his way up. He's going to put on an impressive performance, probably get a first or second round finish is what I'm hoping for because Jaime Zion Top is one of those dudes that it's really hard to finish. And maybe you lost a little confidence during the fight there, but you should come in here knowing that Bobby Green's going to strike with you, and it's not going to be the most intelligent performance, I guess. Like sometimes he has his moments, but like the fight before Patty, I thought he did really good with the teeps and with the jab, but Mauricio Hoofy, he just might pull something out the rabbit hat or out the magician's hat, he's just got that ability, and that's why I don't think you can count him out as like, oh, King Green, oh yeah, plus 350 dog like that. It's like that's scary. But Mauricio Hoofy, he can do a lot, and if he gets humbled, it will be one of the harder ones to take. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, I think that the line of logic that you're putting forward is exactly correct on this. The issue is that Bobby Green, King Green, is a guy who he's made a lot of odd choices in certain fights recently. Like he's not like that he's got power in his hands, and that when he is effectively navigating a fight, he can win a fight. Like that he's an effective striker when he's doing the right things. That being said, he, for whatever reason, in some of these recent fights, has just made poor decisions. I mean, the Patty Pimblett fight comes to mind immediately. It just the way that he navigated that fight to end up in the situation he got himself into, with the triangle armbar. It was just like it took a lot of steps to get to that point. You know what I mean? And all of them were not looking great. So if the Bobby Green of old, so to speak, shows up to this fight, then I do think that there might be a little bit more competition than some are giving credit for, especially a minus 500 price tag on Hoofy seems a little bit high to me, but I can understand why I'm not denying the logic in that. I'm just saying that as far as like actually biting on that, it would be a little bit rich for me, but um it's just where King Green is at currently and the style that he's bringing to fights currently versus Hoofy, who is on the come up, as you said. And I think that like the older Bobby Green, like back when he was still Bobby, probably wouldn't be fucking around with all of the more creative stuff that Hoofy brings to the table. And we saw that Jan Top, a good example there, like you were saying, that like he wasn't able to effectively utilize all of these like super creative attacks that he has had success with in the past. So it's like I believe that the older version of Bobby Green, if he was confronted with those things, would be like, "Oh yeah, that's cute that you're going for a sweep. I'm just going to punch you in the face."
Yeah.
this current version of Bobby Green, it's too tough to be able to like say that that's who's going to show up to this fight.
100%.
So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with Hoofy on this one. Again, I think Green is probably a dude who I'll parlay on, on like an underdog, or like if there's something that sticks out to me that makes sense, to parlay him with, I might throw a parlay out there with Green on it just for the long shot, especially with the with the plus 350 being as what it is. But yeah, I think Hoofy should win this fight if he is who everybody thinks that he is, because a lot of people are, oh, the fighting nerds McGregor, he's
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of mystique around him. Now he has to start really living up to it.
100%. Yeah, this will be a good one. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I am too for this one for sure. Moving down into the prelims, we've got Curtis Blades versus Rizvan Kuniev. Heard some discussion about this one. I guess a lot of people are thinking that Blades is past his prime at this point. Is that what the consensus is?
That is what the consensus is. He just came off of a finish to the dude finishing everybody in the heavyweight division, which you can't really take too much of a loss. I mean, at heavyweight 34, like it's not even the worst. He statistically is the best heavyweight wrestler active, probably of all time. He has the most control time, most top control time, something like that, most takedowns in heavyweight history. I just don't get where the sliding is coming from. And Curtis Blades has no problem being somebody slighted. I know he's not the underdog, but if you want to be the community's underdog because people are counting you out against some slob that's just showing up, like, cool, go out here and finish it. Take him down and wrestle with him. That's what you do best. And I know you didn't get to do that against Tom, but like, who does? So just mind your P's and Q's and do what you do best. Seriously, you got this.
Okay. I mean, Kuniev is a dude who, I mean, I know the name, and obviously I've seen him fight before. I'm sure we've talked about him on the show before. He's not one that like immediately is jumping out to me as like someone who's like, oh yeah, I got to remember that guy's performances, so, maybe there's something there that I'm not seeing, but Curtis Blades is, I think the issue that I have with Curtis Blades is that like he's another one of these fighters that like I've seen him enough times, I know what he's good at, and I'm like, if you just do all of those things effectively, yes, you should win the fight. But I've also seen him get wrecked in a number of different fights that like you kind of make you scratch your head, like how is that the one that you lost, kind of thing, so it's a tough one for me to be like all in on Curtis Blades just as a point blank period, not just against Kuniev, but based on the the frame of reference that I have, I will lean towards Curtis Blades.
There we go.
All right, the next fight up, I know, is a fight that you are certainly excited about, sir. Josh Van versus Ray Suruya, coming over from Ryzen, another one of these Ryzen prospects hitting our shores, I believe, right?
Yeah, I'm actually not too sure if that's the case.
It is. Yeah, no, it definitely is. Suruya is he's the dude who I believe either he or his brother is like a big reality TV star in Japan.
Nice. Yeah, he was on Road to the. Yep, you are right. Interesting.
He came from Ryzen and went to Road to UFC.
No, he came from the Road to the UFC. I don't think he was. Yeah, he came from Pancras 330. Yeah.
Oh, he was on Pancras. No. What? Really? Then I guess I'm. Okay, sorry. That my mistake. I'm definitely mixing him up with a dude who has a similar name then.
Yeah. Kai Asakura.
It's not Kai, but yeah.
Joshua Van is going to win this one easily. This Ray, listen, I don't mean to be that guy sometimes, but like he just gives me the vibes of somebody who's going to get beat by Josh Van. He just doesn't look like a machine. He doesn't look like somebody who's built to last against somebody who is the machine. And the Myanmar manifestation. Damn, I butchered it. That's supposed to be good. He's going to come out here and get this one done. I just have no doubt in this dude ever again. Minus 190. I'm thinking a finish. If not decision. I mean, he is a volume puncher, but Ray looks like one of those dudes that will eventually break. And Josh Van puts a pressure on you that is unfortunately that's what's going to break you. It's because he puts a pace that's beyond what you've ever experienced, what you probably will. The pressure, the style, the combinations. Josh Van has got it all when it comes to striking, and he can sprawl his ass off. So if
That is
Ray
true.
wants to grapple, we can take it that way. And I just don't think it's going to go down. So Josh Van got this.
Well, and I'm very glad then that we are having this conversation as we do on Mondays because I was under the impression that he was this Ryzen person that I was thinking of. So I'm glad that I got that distinction out of the way. If he's a road to the UFC guy, um, aside from Rongju, I have not seen very many road to UFC fighters that have stuck out as extremely impressive to me. You're putting him up against Josh Van, who has been extremely impressive in fights before. So I think that that in and of itself is kind of where my head like kind of lands. It's like I have seen great things out of Josh Van. I have not seen that many great things out of the road to the UFC competition, period, aside from Rongju. So unless this guy is just the the dude who changes the perception on that one. And I mean, there's certainly a potential for that to be the case. Maybe this guy is a killer in the mist that we just don't know of yet. But Josh Van has been proving himself time and time again. He's been proving himself on short notice as well. By the way, I mean, like this dude has done a lot and improved a lot over time. The ground game is kind of the hole in the equation, but like you said, he does sprawl really well. He's working on his defense a lot, so hopefully maybe at some point he'll get the ground game skills to kind of back that a little bit more. He's talked about improving that, so maybe that has happened. I don't know, but either way, he's been doing good things. Dude who I am not familiar with, I gotta side with Josh Van.
I think what's also to note is that Ray, he went to decision with Carlos Hernandez, which I remember at the time I put money on Carlos Hernandez. And the fact that it was a 3-round decision where Ray was grappling the entire time and he wasn't able to finish Carlos Hernandez makes me believe that his grappling is not on the level of Tatsuro, which is the only thing that really matters right now, in my opinion. That's the best Japanese wrestler as of right now. And if Josh Van was ready to go fight Tatsuro, Ray, I don't really think you have much for him, especially coming in at age 22. You're younger than the young gun.
Right.
I just think, listen, battle of the best. There's not going to be any like maybe Josh Van will pull some veteran, I don't know, because he's been here for a little bit. But as of right now, it's the battle of who's the young prospect, and this will be very interesting. If Ray pulls this off, I'm not going to lie, this is an listen. If anything's impressive, is beating fucking Josh Van. I'll put money on you for that. You can see last card. But Josh Van is a hard task to beat, especially if your plan is just to grapple, because he'll get out of it. And if you're not able to submit Carlos Hernandez, I don't think you're submitting Josh Van. So
There you go. I mean, I think that that's pretty much the last word on the subject. Honestly, I'm with you 100% on all of that. Josh
this
Van is
next,
an impressive guy.
yeah, this next one's gonna be good too. This being a dog is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh yeah, no, I that certainly jumped off the page to me. This is Bruno Ferreira versus Armin Petrosian. Petrosian, of course, on the receiving end of the double bullet or whatever you want to call it, the double spinning back fist knockout by Shara Magomedov, going up against Bruno Ferreira, who has been doing some decent work himself. So, I mean, what are you thinking?
I think it's just crazy to think that the dude who got knocked out by Shara just like months ago and is also not even at 10 wins coming in as the favorite against somebody who was on a knockout streak and then got against an elite, and I've said it before, an elite wrestler in Abus. And then Abus actually took a big shot that almost ended the fight kind of deal, but then he was able to weather the storm and get the submission, which I called, by the way. Bruno Ferreira, with that being said, being an underdog, this is a fucking lock. Armin is just not fucking good. Like,
9-4.
yeah, like that's actually ridiculous. Like Bruno, 12-2. If you think about his last loss being a boost by submission more recently, and it was after some pretty gruesome rounds where he almost had a chance. I think Bruno's gonna fucking do it, man. I know 5'10" to 6'3" is a big, but like Armin is not the elite grappler that Abus is, and Armin sucks on the feet. So
That's kind of what I was going to say. I mean, like Armin is just not elite, period.
yeah,
So yeah, no disrespect to the guy, I mean, respect to everybody who makes the walk kind of thing. But I can't remember a time in the past, and I know I've seen him fight more than just the Shara fight. I can't remember any time I was like, oh yeah, Petrosian, that's that dude, you know?
Yeah, I think Bruno will come out and do some work.
I like it. There you go. Good underdog pick there. Moving on, Alex Morono, the Great White versus Carlos Leal. I was pretty surprised by just how much of a favorite Leal is in this fight, but
Coming off an L on his debut.
yeah, well, I bet everybody thought that it was a robbery. So, I mean, I guess that something factors in there. I think it was a pretty impressive, it was an impressive performance even in defeat against Renat Fakhretdinov. Morono is a dude who I've wanted to put a lot of faith in before and have been let down in fights where I really didn't think that he should lose. So for all of those circumstances, I am siding with Leal to win this fight, but at a minus 800, man, that is some hefty numbers.
Yeah, he can go fuck himself for that one. I'm not.
Well,
Minus 800 is crazy.
that's Vegas, not him, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, true. They can.
But yeah, I mean, but are you thinking that he's going to win this fight?
No, I actually think Morono is a really good dog, and I know I'm over here picking a lot of dogs, but like Morono kind of has the pace and the skill set that he can just kind of stay on the outside and pop him up a little bit, not gas him out, but wear him down to where he's frustrated and he's exerting more energy to try to get to the positions that he's trying. But I think Morono might have a good time just dancing on the outside. The dancing polar bear is what I call that dude.
Fair. Yeah, like one of the Coca-Cola polar bears, right?
Exactly. It's exactly what he looks like.
I'm with that. But no, that was going to be my note though, is that Morono, his gas tank is one of the bigger issues that I think that he has, and Leal did not seem to gas at all, if I recall that fight against Fakhretdinov, or at least if he did, it was very, very late in the fight. So I'm gonna go with the favorite on this one, only because I have been let down so many times by Morono, but I'd like to see him get this win. So go out and get it.
Yeah, it could be a very boring decision that you see the vet pull. Like he just might style on him from the outside. I don't know. I can just see it happening, but I could be wrong.
No, I mean, it certainly could go exactly as you're saying. I could also see this being very clinch heavy, because I seem to remember that Leal like kind of allowed some clinch situations with Renat, if I'm not mistaken. And maybe my memory is failing me on that, but I could see this getting to a point where, especially if both of them are putting a lot of effort in early, then later rounds both guys get a little bit tired. That's just going to be what it's going to be. I am curious to see if Leal comes into this fight with as much acne as he had in the first fight.
That explains how he was able to go so long in the first one. Like he might come out here and just gas after the first round. If he's got clear skin, you better bet the under.
He is off the cycle, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. But I'm going to side with Leal on that one.
Yeah, it's not a bad one. I actually don't. I only want to not love it because of the fucking number.
Sure. Yeah, really. The number is absurd. Yeah, that is. I would stay away from betting on it unless you were really, really confident. But that's bet at your own discretion when it comes to a minus 800 for almost anything.
Now this should be a minus 800 right here.
Let's go, Marion Santos, man, or Myron. I always do that wrong, man. Myron Santos, our buddy from The Ultimate Fighter. Versus Francis Fire Marshall. I love this fight, actually. I think that this is for Myron Santos coming into the organization. This is his second. This will be his second official fight, right? Or yeah.
No, he came off the tough finale. Well,
tough finale. Okay, there you go. That's what it was. So yeah. Okay, so this will be his official debut after tough. I think they still count that one as a whatever. You know what I'm saying? This being an early fight in his tenure with the organization, I think Francis Marshall is the exact right opponent for him.
I think this one is just going to be one. It's going to be a very grind heavy matchup. Myron Santos, lot to prove, trying to get his name into the, he did finish tough, and he is obviously a bigger name than a lot of these people coming up, but he's trying to cement himself in the division now. Tough days are over. You're in the UFC. Now the next steps are coming. Prove that you have the ability to hang with some of these top prospects. Francis Marshall isn't the top prospect out there, but he's a decent enough competition that I think it's going to go to decision. And Myron Santos is finally going to, and I brought it up, on the Discord that he's a grappler. Like his credentials are grappling and wrestling. Like this is what he does, but he's got 9 knockouts or something like that. So I think this will be the one. that he comes out here and he's actually going to showcase just how good of a wrestler he is. But that's just my opinion. I think it's going to be a grind-heavy decision for Myron Santos. Unanimous decision, by the way.
Fair. I'll go with that. I mean, Santos has been very impressive in the performances that we have seen. The reason that I think that Marshall is a great matchup for him is that Marshall is a dude who does go after it in these fights. I mean, like his striking is pretty good when he's able to get it off. I think that, and if it's who I'm thinking of, and I think it is, he got himself caught early with the grappling in, I believe, his last fight. And wasn't able to like break a like a wrestling exchange. Like I think that in his last performance, he like got his back was taken and he like kind of accepted that position a little bit. So the point of all of this is basically if it ends up staying at range, then he might be able to find some good shots. Santos gets in there and does what he does best, as you're saying, with his grappling. Then I think that he'll be able to really wear him down. And over time, it has the potential to be a very nice like mounting performance where over the course of the fight, you see like Santos maybe starts a little bit closer and then Santos breaks away towards the end. That's what I'm thinking.
I think this is another one just like Josh Van and Ray. It's like this isn't the savvy vet versus the young prospect. This is two young prospects who are hungry to be a name in the division because this is exactly where you're going to get your foot in the door. And you have a great performance here, and people could start saying, okay, well, he needs to get an actual good opponent. Myron Santos coming off tough, you're going to have the skyrocket strapped to your back. You come out here and you make this impressive, people are going to throw some things on your name. You're going to get you. Hey, listen, Tamirov just fought a ranked opponent on his second fight in the UFC. Anything's possible if you make it interesting. So Myron Santos, I think you can do this. I don't know how you're going to do it. I'm hoping decision because that's maybe what I'll have my money on. But when you get the victory, listen, I could care less how you do it.
Yeah, and really, based on the performances that we have seen from him, he does seem like he has that spark of someone who can be like legitimately great. So.
Yeah, I feel that's actually one of my better picks. Like not necessarily a pick on the night of the fights, but when we started watching Tough, when Myron Santos came up and he's showing all his medals and all the stuff that he's won in his career, I knew it from there. Like this dude, not only has the background to back up what his skill set will allow him to do, but he's reaching for other things. He already was the best wrestler at the time. Now he wants to be better than that. He wants to be the best fighter at the time. He wants to win tough. I just think that the story is building for Myron Santos, and he's not going to be denied much further.
Yeah, no, I would agree. So I think that he's taking that fight for sure. All right, moving on to Jordan Santos versus Ozzy Diaz. Santos coming off of the Contender Series, and Diaz coming off of getting knocked the fuck out, I believe.
Yeah, this one I could care less about. I'm not gonna. He did get knocked out by Zhang Mingyang.
Yeah, and Zhang Mingyang is a fucking problem. So I mean, maybe not necessarily the the right fight to judge Diaz on in his entirety, but 9-3 and nothing really impressive outside of getting knocked out. I've got no real faith in him. Especially with the odds being somewhat close, I think taking the favorite on this is probably your safer bet, and hoping that the Contender Series guy comes in here and makes a mark.
Yeah, the only thing I can note is that Mr. Santos has more subs than knockouts. So if you want to put some money on something, I guess there's something to notice.
Yeah, and honestly, I make it interesting because Diaz is, as we now know, he's a guy that you can style on. So
Yeah,
go out there and do that, and maybe you get a little bit more momentum on your name.
100%.
And to round it all out, Chris Gutierrez versus John Castaneda. Not really, not too keen on this fight, honestly. This is, is it just going to be a Gutierrez kick fest?
No, I actually think. Well, one, is it going to be a kick fest? Yes, by Chris Gutierrez. But I think this is just interesting to note that Chris Gutierrez is one of those fighters that you have visually seen not have their head in the game. Like the last fight, I'm pretty sure it was the last fight. Let me double check. The last fight that he had, no, he did win his last one. Okay, so Song Yadong was the one before. No, actually, I'm lying. I've watched him against Pedro Munoz, and the fight against Pedro Munoz, which was 4 fights ago, and I still don't think he's redeemed himself, is that he just completely didn't show up. He didn't implement the game plan that he could have. He just kicked the entire time. He didn't let his hands go. And I've said this before the Pedro Munoz fight, Chris Gutierrez stand up. When he's on, he's very like Leon Edwards. Like he is a very straight technical kickboxer and he can throw kicks when you don't even know they're coming. His stand up is very technical and slick. Um, and I just think he's very impressive when he's there. But this is why I don't think the money can be put on him, is because will he be there? I don't know. John Castaneda is another dude that's just like, I don't know too much about him, but if I don't know too much about you and I know the other dude may or may not show up, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, fair assessment, I guess. Like Gutierrez has had opportunities to make himself more impressive that I don't think that he has taken.
Yeah.
Castaneda, I believe, has also kind of fallen into that camp a little bit as well. I mean, 21-7, he's been around for quite some time. I don't think that he's really made his mark in a way that like you'd really want to see in order to gain a confidence in putting your backing on a fighter. So really they don't have the odds up for this one, but it's kind of a pick 'em as far as I'm concerned. And I mean, I'll go with Gutierrez because the kicks are effective when he is on. Hopefully he'll come to this fight in go mode, but either way, this is not exactly like a fight that screams like "let's go" from the gate. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. We'll obviously be there for it, but this isn't like if I was a casual fan, I certainly wouldn't be like, oh, I got to be there for the first fight of the night.
Yeah, I'm hoping you're right and I can take Chris Gutierrez by decision because he should skate by with the skill set that he has. But will he show up to fight? I don't know. I just really can't tell you.
There you go. Well, you know what? We're going to find out this weekend, and you can find out with both of us individually because both myself and Chase do our individual watch alongs. I do them at youtube.com/@Yama Show with my friend the Vitz King. Chase, I know that you can tell them where they can find you.
They can find me streaming on youtube.com/@CP Smalls and on twitch.tv/creative play. There you go.
We'll get it down. Follow my boy. Make sure you do. Also on Twitter as well. We will be back next Monday, of course, to talk about every fight from UFC 313. This week, I am hoping to have at least one more video out. It'll probably be that edited Alex Pereira video I was talking about a little bit earlier. Might end up getting another stream in this week because there is some fuckery afoot in the MMA content creation space going on, and I might try to get the homie Price from Fight Show on the channel to talk that through. So we'll see if we can work out the scheduling on that. Keep your eyes on the channel. Always something new coming out. If we don't see it during the week, then we will definitely be there for the watch along. And of course, next Monday back to talk about all of it on this show. So have a great rest of your week, everybody. Take good care. And as always, fight on.